stall. He's gaining. He's not going to split them on the middle. He's that's a
He's going on board with John Leon. Leon's going to commit. He comes off to the inside. There's no one, and he's going to finish. He tried his best. How did he catch it? John Leon has gone.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening from wherever you may be in the world, and thank you for joining me for the virtual Sports Car Championship, VWSC. You join me here at Sebring Raceway, the 5.8 kilometer long circuit, joined in the booth this evening by Alec King and Paul on production. Alec, good evening.
Good evening. How's it going, everybody? Hope you all will enjoy this great race we have today. Something different, but a good series we have over at CMS, and we're all looking forward to it.
Yeah, of course, the Raceway. Not the only track we go to this season. We're going to have a look at the calendar for the season because it is an exciting one here for the VWSC. As you can see, we've had Daytona already. We're at Sebring for the 1.2 hours of Sebring, which is going to be an exciting one. After this, we go to Oschersleben on the 21st of March. Then we have Silverstone on the 28th of March. Hockenheim on the 2nd of March. Le Mans the 16th of May. A track that I don't know how to pronounce. Dijon, I think it is, on the 25th of July. Never heard of the track, to be honest. Must be an exciting one. Hungaroring on the 15th of August. Suzuka on the 29th of August. Donington on the 26th of September. Austria on the 24th of October, Miami on the 21st of November, and Laguna Seca, of course, the track so well known for its corkscrew, on the 28th of November. As you can see, a calendar that runs for quite a long time, as I've just heard in my ear, that is not the dates that I read the dates wrong. The dates are on the right-hand side for me. So the 25th of March, we will have Oschersleben. Won't go through them all. You can see the calendar on your screen. Take the right-hand side dates. That's for the Saturdays. So the 250 kilometers of Oschersleben will be next. Looking on to the tires then that the drivers will be using today. The different cars as well. Ferraris, McLarens, Mercedes, Nissans, Paunas, Esperance, Porsche 911s, Toyotas. We will have them all. Of course, we will use the Michelin's, the Bridgestones, of course, softs and hard tires, Dunlops in this race as well. So all in all, I would say, Alec, some good tires to choose from.
Yes, multiple compounds, so it makes the race very interesting. Each car goes through their tire wear very differently over a stint, and we're going to find that here in today's race. There'll be a lot of cars that will be very aggressive and very strong at the beginning of the stint, but will lose out towards the end, and then we'll see some of those back runners come forward in the field as the race progresses.
Yeah, coming forward in the field is going to be a big thing. Of course, some cars, of course, not every car evenly matched. Every car gets its lap time different. As you can see, a lot of different cars here with us this evening. We're expecting about 36 cars in total this evening out on track. So, yeah, it's going to be a good one. Let's look on to what the drivers then will have to deal with here on this Sebring circuit. Cars are still new for the drivers here, Alec. You, of course, are a driver in the car. Of course, you won that Daytona on the Tuesdays. So you know everything to tell us about the cars.
Yes, very, very tricky to drive. With these vintage cars, very high power and medium to low grip. It'll be very interesting coming into this race. Everyone is still learning. This is only the second race we have with these cars, so everyone is still trying to tweak out their setups. I believe they're getting fairly comfortable, but definitely a challenge. With this track being so bumpy, the cars are very unsettled and aren't the most stable coming through some of those iconic corners like Sunset. So you have to respect the bumps, and tire wear will come be a big problem in this race. How you can manage that and deal with everything and what strategy to be on will be a really big challenge that all the drivers will have to face.
Yeah, I think it said about 3 times on your screen right now. It says tires, tires, tires. It's going to be a very important thing. And tires is an interesting one to talk about, of course. We had the hards and we had the softs. This race is it is 72 minutes long. Time multiplier is set to times 10. So we're going to have day and night transition as well. That is going to make it tricky for the drivers. You're going to have different, track temperatures at different times. You want to use the hard tires at some point. You want to use the soft tires at another. It's going to be tricky for the drivers to manage. As you can see here, the Sebring International Raceway. It's an interesting bumpy track, isn't this one?
Yes, a lot of unique characteristics with this track. A lot of really tight corners and then fast and flowy corners. It's going to be really tricky to try and keep up pace over the stint. But over a lap, it can be tricky as well. These cars are a handful around here, so you really have to have a lot of respect and make your way around the track as smoothly as you possibly can. And that's a very tricky thing to do with this series.
Yeah, I do want to point out that on my live timing, it says 12-hour road course, 5.8 kilometers long. It says 6.02 kilometers long on your screen right now. So I don't know which one to believe, to be honest. We'll go with the longer version because that'll mean that the race will take longer, wouldn't it? No, it wouldn't, I guess.
Yeah, kind of.
It's a minute run race. Here we go then. That is everything about today. Looking at the championship stand, this is the LMGT2 AM Championship. Filippo Marazzi is leading the way there on 10 points. Matthew, a lot of difficult names. First time for me here doing this, so excuse me if I pronounce some names wrong. If you want to have your name pronounced differently, let me know. DM me on Discord and I will pronounce your name correctly next time. Matthew Sivagnoni, hope I pronounced that correctly. Maximilian Pufraki and Alan Hanglin is in fourth. All the last 2 drivers on 0 points, then onto the LMGT2 Pro, as I like to call it, standings. Matthew Overton on 10 points ahead of Ben Borman on 6 points in second. JT Tommy and 4 points in third. Dave Course in fourth on 3 points. Ross Smith in fifth on 2 points. And Joe Miller in sixth on 1 point. Then the team championship, Dark Thunder Racing on 13 points and Rookie Monster on 8 points. Of course, you can see the colors. They give you information on which team they are driving for. So, for instance, Speed Details, which is leading the way in the LMGT 1 AM class, is driven for by Wayne Hutchison in first on 10 points and Stefan Miller in fourth on 3 points. That's how you can tell who is where and which team is which. Eric Monette in second on 6 points. Jerry Chan in third on 4 points. I know that name. I've seen him, I think, in the modern one as well. The last one I did. So a returning driver to this series. Barry Dimarzo on 2 points in fifth. Guilherme Benke in sixth on 1 point. Then a half a point, which you don't see often in championships, for Tom Monjoy and George Angelidis in 7th and 8th, respectively. Mike Olsen in 9th. Tony Boynton in 10th. And Graham Duncombe in 11th. Then we will move on to the LMGT Pro standings. Here we go. And, well, Alec, why don't you do this one?
Yes, in our first position, we have Walter de Bruijn with Rookie Monsters Mercedes. Those guys have ran really well this season. Magnus Dahlgren in the Toyota. Taman Suvik in third with 4 points. John Yuan in fourth with 3 points. Ethan Funk in fifth with 2 points. He's definitely a guy to look out for today. Luciano Ichazo in sixth with 1 point. Then to our half points, which were guys for the last race who made it the race distance but failed to still finish, who scored a half point. Alex Garicki in seventh, Alexander Scholes in eighth, Brian Hall in ninth, Joaquin Cudret in 10th, Johnny Gutierrez in 11th, Norm Grath in 12th, Victor Janaba in 13th. And then we get on to Gills, and these are the guys who didn't finish the race last weekend. Gills, Lalonde, Brandon Gant, Jason Whited, Philippe Henrique, Adrian Rice, and then myself. Sadly, didn't have the best race on Saturday due to a faulty penalty with the R Factor 2 system. But our team standings, Rookie Monsters Mercedes with 10 points. Walter is very good with that and has helped carry that team. Me racing in the Toyota GT1, there's 3 cars on that team, so always good to score points with them. Scholes Rennsport with 4.5 points in third. The CMS Pro team with John Yuan and Dan Kirby with 3 points. Those guys definitely can come back today. And then Depth Racing in the Nissan with 2.5 points.
Well then, I think, Alec, that was very well done, by the way. I think it's about time for us to head down to the track, see how the drivers are doing out on track. Here we go, here we have the drivers out on track. And, well, how exciting is it to see all these historic cars out on track?
Yes, no, it's great. As we get into quali now, we start out with our GT2s. They will have 10 minutes of quali, and then we will get into our GT1s. Seeing all these great historic cars on track is amazing. Not many series in the sim world where you can see these types of cars on track and see these specific cars on track. Some good ones out there. A lot of different unique characteristics, as we've said before, between them all, but always a good fight and always a good battle to see the difference and variety we have here.
You know, the thing that I think that is being done different than anything else I've seen is the fact that these historic cars are being driven in kind of a competitive environment. You can usually just drive these cars around yourself as well, and then just have fun with them. But driving them in a competitive environment, there aren't a lot of leagues that do that. And it's great to see, of course, so many drivers. 36 cars we were expecting this evening. 16 cars in the LMGT1 field, 12 cars in the LMGT1 AM field, 5 cars in the LMGT2 Pro, and 3 cars in the LMGT2 AM. That was our entry list for today, and that adds up to 36 cars in total. But like I said, driving these cars in a competitive environment is something that you don't see often, or very rarely indeed.
Yes, a lot of the cars you can find on the Steam Workshop and through other modding sites, and just go out there, and most of the time all you can really do is take them out and have fun by yourself. But to have this series and this era in a competitive series, it brings it back to life and is very very fun just for everyone to hop into a car that you normally wouldn't see racing, and has kind of already had its life cycle in the real world of racing, but to come back to them and what CMS does here with bringing back these vintage cars and allowing to bring them some new light. And a lot of the cars are older than some of the people competing, so some of the cars people didn't even know about, but to see them in the sim, you fall in love with them, like with the Marcos that Ben is in. Wasn't a very known car, but now it's in the series and in the sim world, and it's been brought back to life and has become one of the favorites in the series.
Yeah. Well, we can see the LMGT class is now out on track, of course. The thing that I like most, and the thing that I think when I see these cars out on track, is the fact that I'm not old at all. I'm lucky to call myself still 19, very young. But I have never seen these cars race in real life. When these cars were racing out on track at the real Sebring Raceway, there wasn't any sim to talk about that you could do this in competitively. Everyone kind of had their arcade games that looked, for the time, quite good. But you were never able to race them like these. So to just see them now be able to kind of relive these old races in a kind of live way and being able to commentate on them, I think is amazing.
Yes, it's something very unique and pretty cool to be a part of. You know, these cars are definitely something special. In this era of sports car racing, it was a little rocky and rough with splits in certain series and everything, but just to still have these now, and with the new modern era of sim racing and being able to develop these cars and put them into the game, it makes it pretty incredible just to be able to drive these cars. You know, some of these are cars that people dream of and have posters on their wall, and to have them in here and be able to be competitive in them in a competitive environment is something that you don't really get to see with this era. Oh, and we have a spin right there with Ross Smith going in T1. Very tricky corner. We will see a lot of, hopefully not a lot, but it wouldn't surprise us if we see a lot of incidents through there. Very, very bumpy coming through that section of the track.
What is Ben Borman doing here? He was purple in sector 1 and 2 and went into the pit lane. However, Matthew Overton is the one now crossing the line, and he goes into second, 2.1 seconds still behind Smith on a 206.7. Not too bad, but not quite there yet. Quickest lap time at the moment, a 204.589.
Yes, those the Marcos comes alive a little bit earlier. These guys and the Vipers definitely need to put in just another lap or so just to get some temp in the tires and kind of bring the car up to pace. Still very competitive, but it's just something that kind of has to come around. I would like to say a quick thing. Felipe Marazzi riding in the Porsche. I actually made that livery that for the Porsche he is driving, so pretty cool to see some of my work on track.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool livery, I have to say. And I love that Porsche, of course. I think everyone does. Everyone, if you see that car, you suddenly become a Porsche fan. But what I wanted to still point out is the fact, of course, that the LMGT2 classes are now out onto the track, onto the tarmac, setting the lap time to score. We'll see the LMGT1 cars out on track a little bit later on in this session too. Here are the overall times. We have the AM and the Pro class out on track at the same time, so they don't go out at separate times. So do the different classes, though. They go out at separate times. So the LMGT1 cars will go out in about 3 minutes from now, a little bit more, and then they will have their shot to qualify. This car, though, the Viper, I love it. I love this Viper. If I see this car, I just know, you know, it just brings a certain bit of nostalgia.
Yes, for sure. The Viper in racing is just, it was so iconic for its era and what it ran across all platforms and the different generations that it ran in. But this era was kind of the first for the Viper, so it was the first time that Dodge made a competitive race car to take to Le Mans and take into sports car racing. So it's so iconic and so well done, and I love the liveries that everyone has done for them and kind of given that nostalgia vibe and kind of brought some other stuff back to life. It's so amazing to see them on track, and the sounds of them as well. The Viper is one of the best sounding cars we all can probably agree on.
Oh yeah, definitely. I love my little Viper. It's I don't know, it's a car that I've loved forever basically. It's I don't know how to properly put it. I saw the car and I immediately just fell in love with it. It's the looks of the car, how the car sounds, and I don't think I'm the only one who thinks that way.
Yeah, no, it's pretty iconic. When you first see one, it just you're kind of in awe of it, and it's one of those cars that always catches your eye and always looks amazing. So it's definitely a fan favorite, and it was very well loved, and was very well loved by race teams in this era. There was a lot of teams that went and decided to run their own Viper, and some pretty iconic teams from that era as well. We all know the Zach Speed Vipers that competed, that were just amazing. So definitely a special car in the real racing world. And now in Sim, and when we go off track here, he just slightly dipped 2 tires into the grass going into the braking zone. Maybe a little bit of damage, but Dave looks to get back on track and hopefully can still put down a lap.
Well, I think he has a little bit of damage from contact with the wall there, so I think he will be looking to go back to pit lane. There we go. And Ross Smith has also jumped to the top of the timetable. He's been there for quite a while. He's again purple in sector 1. And well, that car, I'm gonna test your knowledge here about the Viper, Alex. So
yes.
Which engine is in the Viper?
I believe it is the V10. I don't know if this one still, the original Viper has the V10, but I knew the new modern ones had the V10 in it. I believe so. Don't quote me on that. I'm more of a Porsche guy.
An 8-liter normally aspirated V10 engine.
Yeah.
So, you know, one of the later V10s. Now, you know, it all has to be smaller, more efficient, instead of bigger, less efficient than just more noise, which of course, coming from the younger era of sports car fans, I've never really known how they sounded and how the thrill was watching them at the track. The only thing that I know is, of course, the V8s that are still being run in the Intercontinental GT Challenge. If you didn't know, Alec, I come from the Netherlands, very close to Spa-Francorchamps, about an hour driving from me, so I always go to the 24 hours of Spa to watch it, as we've come to the end of qualifying for the LMGT2s. We'll get back to that story in a bit, but as you can see, it's Borman who's gone to the top on a 2:02.4. That's a very quick lap time.
Yes. Ben is one of the main guys in the GT2 class, so he is always very competitive in this series, and is definitely the one to watch in this class and throughout this race. So keep an eye on him.
Well, he left it late, I have to say. For a long time, Ross Smith was at the top of the pile. He left it very late, as we see now. Every LMGT1 rush out on track. And, well, there are considerably more GT1s than there are GT2s. About 28 LMGT2s out on track at the moment. I don't know exactly, I haven't counted them yet, but we were expecting 28 LMGT1s. So, yeah, looking forward to see these cars put their lap time down. Quickest lap time we've seen so far in this session. Not in this qualifying session, but in the server as a whole, is a 1:53.961. That lap time was set by Daniel Kirby. Second quickest lap time, a 1:54.4. I think that's more of an aim for the driver by Johnny Gutierrez. That lap time was set. So in practice, we saw a 1:55 low. Do you think that we can get below that 1:55 mark in qualifying?
I believe so. With these quali setups that these guys are running, there's a big difference between a race and quali setup. So wouldn't surprise me if you see some smoke coming out of the back from them running a lot of grill tape. It is all raw speed and power, and how fast can you put something down. So as we follow Brian here on his starting of his flying lap, he's very smooth. Brian is a great driver. I had some good battles with him at Daytona. Comes through the first section. It's very tricky coming through T1. You have to be very gentle on the power, and he seems to do pretty well. Hugs it a little tight coming through there, but seems to be very strong coming into the next S section. Nice and tidy through there. You want to clip the curbs, but not too much, because the curbs very unsettle the car in this series. You have to be very concerned and very gentle as you go across them. As we go under the bridge and down into the tight hairpin corner, on the power as fast as you can. This Mercedes is very fast in a straight line. Comes through the tight section, nice hug the apex, gets back on the power, and then back through the other backstretch. This curb right here will destroy those cars, so be on the watch for that race. That curb right there, I had a couple spins when I was trying to do some practice, and very tricky. We come through this next section. The car gets very unsettled through here as you're changing directions very quickly. The car can snap around, you lose the rear end a little bit, and then this tight braking zone, it's very slow in these, but you want to get back on the power, and a little bit of wobble there, but not too much. This next section coming up on this part of the track can be kind of tricky, but you just want to hug the curb a little bit, stay nice and tight and tidy. Goes through there very well, gets back on the brakes. Oh, and he slides a little bit coming through there as he gets down in the final corner, loses a little bit of time, but goes a little wide, but still gets a good drive onto the backstretch. And now we come into Sunset, which is the trickiest corner on the track with all of the bumps and everything about it. The car is just bouncing the whole time, and you want to get it under power, but you can't, because if you do, the car will just lose it. So let's watch Brian as he comes through here. Nice and smooth, just very gentle on the throttle. You don't want to push it, and as you come out, get back on the power as fast as you can. Held it a little tight through there, just being safe, but we can understand that. And he does a 1:56.354. That's a pretty good lap for the first lap of qualifying.
Yeah, that's a good lap. The thing that I'm interested to know about, and I don't know if our roaming pit reporter Paul can go after this, but it seems like for Brian Hall, who is in the Mercedes, he's dropping down the order because he was in the GT2, if I'm not correct. Am I not? Oh,
he was still in the GT1. He just lost a little bit of time through with that slide there, so I'm sure if he can get another clean lap, he'll come back up to the front.
All right, here we look at Johnny Gutierrez, who's just gone to the top of the pile on a 1:54.2, and there we go. We said the quickest lap time in this session was a 1:53.961 before this. That might well be gone by the end of this qualifying, Alec.
Yes. These they are going full force, full push as fast as they can. They want that track position for this race. With it being a little bit longer, it's better to try and put yourself up in a good position and stay there. These panos are very, very strong that Johnny is in. But I will say they are very good in qualifying, but they do eat their tires a little bit. So, and then this is Magnus Dahlgren in the Toyota, and has a very, very unique sound, and it does sound amazing. The Toyota struggles a little bit on pace, but is very fast, and it is the fastest car in a straight line. So, in other areas where he'll lose something, he definitely will make it up on the backstretch.
Not a lot of straights here on this track, to be honest. You have, well, the main straight, you have the backstretch, and then, of course, you have it coming down from, well, turn 10 all the way down through turn 11, 12. That's basically full throttle, I think, for this Toyota. That's really most amount of straights you will have. I'm interested to see if he's going to start a flying lap here, Magnus. Here we go. Yes, he is. He will be starting a flying lap again. Has done his little cool down lap. A 1:58.9. Not by any means a slow lap, but a little bit of a cool down lap. There we go on a flying lap. He goes now. Oh, just getting a little bit of a slide on there. That was on the edge of the grip of the car.
Yes, that was pretty.
That was a... Ooh, no. He wasn't happy with that. And he parks on the side of the road.
Yeah, maybe just wore the tires a little bit too much there. Would rather come in and get a fresh jet. There's still 3.5 minutes left in this session, so still enough time to get back to the pits, get your out lap, and put down one more flyer. So we'll see what he has. He's trying to come back up, and we'll see what he can do. He's in P3 right now, so we'll see if he can try and put down another good lap.
Yeah, we're looking with Tom Lane in the Carpe GTR1. And this is also a really cool car. One of my favorites in the GT1 class. My absolute favorite is the one we were just looking at. That was the Toyota. It's one that I've always admired. Not one of the quickest cars of its time, but definitely one of the best sounding cars. And I just love the raw sound of that car. Tom Lane at the moment in P6 in the GT1 Pro class. The LMGT1 Pro doing quite well here is Tom in his GTR1.
Yes, no, Tom is a good driver. He's been a part of the CMS group and community for a while. Done a lot of good races. Always runs up the front fairly well. So definitely a good driver. Always has a very clean driver. Always can run up front and have some good battles with everybody. So there's a lot of guys in this field and a lot of drivers who are really close in pace. So that'll be a big thing to look out for, and how different these cars are with the gap between all of them. At the end of the race, they'll all be together. It wouldn't surprise me if there's not much of a gap that's created, and so if we can have them all together.
Yeah. Well, I am quickly, before we get to the end of qualifying, I'm going to welcome everyone in YouTube chat. Of course, Ross Alexander Smith, welcome to the stream. Hope you're enjoying it. Michael David as well. Viper was the GOAT back in the day, he says. Well, and that's an interesting point that he makes there. The Viper, was it really the best car of its time? It was definitely the car with the most fans, I think, as a car in itself in the day, or back in the day, but it was really the best car to be in.
It was a fairly decent car. It had its success. It definitely had its fair share of wins and everything. Was it the best? I don't know. The Porsches were very strong at that era and time. But it definitely is, as you said, one of the fan favorites. It was just so unique and so different, and just to see those on track was definitely something special that everyone could enjoy.
I think not too long back, actually, the Vipers and everything were still competing at Le Mans, and I think only in the 2000s, if I remember that correctly, they stopped entering Le Mans.
The Vipers actually surprisingly ran in Le Mans up until, I believe, 2014. There were a couple of customer entries that when they had their GTE program that ran in IMSA. I believe it was Ben Keating who brought over one of his cars to come compete. And they ran in IMSA all the way up until 2014. They ran in the GTD class. The year prior, they ran in the GTLM class. but Viper decided to pull back on their factory program. So we had been catering to keep it alive for a little bit. But they were still fairly competitive, and I would love to see the Dodge brand come back into this new era of sports cars that we have. Don't know if they will, but it definitely would be cool to see. We all can dream of them making a next generation Viper to come out.
Well, this is
Yes,
Ferrari 333 SP. What a
Yes,
car this is.
George Andelitis in this car. This car is awesome. It sounds amazing. It has an F1 V12 in it. This was a car that wasn't it has a Ferrari engine. It was mainly built by Dallara and everything. It wasn't a factory entered Ferrari, but it has all the Ferrari components. But it definitely was a fan favorite at the time. And at the time, this car won Daytona, was fairly competitive at Le Mans, and was really big in the US Can-Am series that they were running. Definitely a fan favorite of something. Oh, and we have a crash. As looked like to be some contact maybe on the front stretch with Tom Montjoy in the Porsche. Hate to see that, as he seems to be the lone Porsche in the field.
Well, he was a cross start finish anyways. And as you can see, second flag is out for the drivers, so it wouldn't have mattered anyways. He came across the start finish line too late to start a flying lap. Matter anything. Jason Whitted is the only one at the moment really still on an improvement in P11 at the moment. Let's see what he can do across the line. He needs about a 10 to go a position up. And there we go, up it's a P9 he goes on a 156.211. And this is Becky. He's gone back into the pit lane. Qualifying is done. And everyone is going to be looking to either head back into pit lane or finish the laps that they're on. But as you can see, none of the drivers really improving anymore. The only car that is still out there is Johnny Gutierrez, who's coming through Sunset right now. He isn't improving at all. He is on a slow in lap. So we're pulling into the pit lane. That was qualifying done. And that means that we have Johnny Aaron on pole position.
Yes, John, and with the CMS Pro team. Not surprised. Those guys, that team has the panos figured out. Him and Dan Kirby, who sadly doesn't seem to be here today. He's one of the CMS regulars. Definitely a strong group of competitors, and I'm really excited to see what they can do and to see how they plan out and things play out for them in this race.
Well, of course, the drivers now getting their drivers briefing, which will mean that we have a little bit of time to talk about what exactly happened in that qualifying session. They're setting up the starting order as well. Here we go. The starting order for you. Here we go, Johnny, and we'll start from pole position in the LMGT 1 field. Johnny Gutierrez in P2, Magnus Dahlgren in P3. Didn't quite see P4, but I can see that P4 was Tom Lane on my timing screen. P5 for Ethan Funk in 5th, Norm Graff in P6. P9 then, we'll continue. Brian Hall in P9, George Angelides in P10, the first of the LMGT 1 AM cars. Wayne Hutchison in P11 there too, P12 for Jason Whitted. I'll just go on my timing screen. P13, Philip Henrique. 14, Gilles Lalonde. 15th, Timon Sovicki, or Sovic as we call him. Eric Moyed in P16, 17, Victor Janeba, Alex Giric in P18, Chokwan Quadriet in P19, Luciano Ijaz P20. There's quite a lot to go through. P21 for Stefan Miller, P22 for Alex Schultz, Becky Ellie in P23, Jerry Chen in P24, Mike Olsen in P25, Guillermo Benke in P26. Really struggling with the pronunciations of some of these names. Tom Montoy in P27, P28 for Ben Borman, Ross Smith in P29, P30 for Matthew Overton, Tim van der Bergen in P31, Dave Course in P32, P33 for Joe Miller, Filippo Marazzi in P34, and Maximilian Potravki in P35. Whew, that's a lot to go through. That's the whole grid. It moves quite quick, I have to say. It doesn't really give me the time to try and pronounce these things correctly. The champion, of course, from last season, Hutchison, moved back to the AM class for this race, or from 2 seasons ago, moved back to the AM class. So, of course, the AM class that he won 2 years ago.
Yes, he seemed to have taken a little bit of time off, so he wanted to get back in and still be competitive. He's very close to being on pace with the pro guys, but just wants to try and get a little bit more experience. And that's what the AM class is about. It's just about learning and kind of finding your way. So we all want to learn the best we can before we can try and move up and ride with some of the fast guys.
Well, that's an interesting thing you just said there. He was away for a bit. Came back and wanted to be competitive. Well, the thing is, you've proven that you could be competitive in the pro class. I wouldn't see any reason to put you back into the AM class, apart from the fact that you yourself realize that you're not going to be running either first, second, or third, and going to be fighting for the victory, which, I mean, running in the pro class already on itself should be a good thing. I don't know why you would want it to be demoted back down to the AM class just to be competitive, really. You can be competitive with the AM class drivers still, but just being in the pro class, wouldn't that do the same thing, and then just let the AM drivers fight for their own AM championship?
Yes, that's kind of how you would want it to be. Some guys just like to try and hang back and want to see the results on paper, and there's no problem with that. He does have the pace to be a pro driver and fight in the mid-fac, and can sometimes fight up front in the pro class, but we'll just see how it goes. And I'm sure that if he is winning the AM class pretty regularly, that there will be a relegation there to make sure he bumps up into the pro category.
Yeah, well, of course, champion 2 years ago, Wayne Hutchinson. A great drive from him then. Looking to do more of the same that he did that season. Once again here at Sebring. It's an amazing track, a bumpy track. We've touched on turn 1 already. Want to touch on it again because it is such a fascinating corner. It's bumpy. It's the corner on itself, let's be honest. If it wasn't bumpy, it wouldn't be tricky at all. So it's really the bumps that make it difficult for the drivers.
Yes, the motto at Sebring is respect the bumps. That is the big thing that you have to do with this circuit. With it being, Sebring is built on an old airfield, so going through everything is very tricky. So you have to be very gentle with the car, and I hear a lot of drivers in real life say they'd rather do 36 hours of Daytona than do 12 hours at Sebring. Just because of how rough it is on your body and everything in real life. And in the sim world, it can be rough too, because you have to be so gentle on the wheel, and your wheel will want to jerk from you, and it's very hard to try and manage everything with this circuit.
Well, I was driving today as well, the 6 hours of a One for Another championship, and I have to say, I put my force feedback all the way up to 100. I'm rocking the Fanatec V2.5 with the V2 steering wheel, and I have to say, my shoulders are already pretty sore from just 2 hours of driving a modern LMP2 car, or well, what you call modern, it's a Dallara, which we don't see being used very often still in the LMP2 class anyway. But it is still quite a modern car compared to these cars, but that is a car that has, it's a car that's fairly easy to drive. It can take the bumps. Le Mans is not a track that is known for its bump, but I'm still sore. So being on this track with a better base than I have at the moment, don't get me wrong, the V2.5 is still a good wheelbase, but the maximum amount of torque that wheelbase can put out is nothing compared to a direct drive steering wheel. So having that and putting that up to your liking, maybe a little bit higher than what a V2.5 can do, you're going to be struggling here at the end of the 72 minutes.
Yes, for sure. And even in these cars, with them being older, there wasn't all of the new technology and such that we see, like you said, in a modern LMP2 or a modern prototype. So with these cars, it's even more rough. You feel everything a lot more with this series and with all these cars. So it's going to be best to manage, and the guys definitely and all the drivers had to set up the cars in a way to try and handle that, to make it as easy to drive. But it's definitely something that is going to be rough on them today.
Yeah, well, ooh, that's a crash into pit
little
lane
bump
entry.
into the pit lane.
Hopefully they won't do that during the race. Luckily, it's still a warm-up session for the people who were wondering why are they driving. They are driving in the warm-up session. This livery, though, I have to say, this looks proper retro, doesn't it?
Yes, yes. I forget who made that livery, but it is very something. Who was it? Maximilian. Yes, yes, yes. I actually talked to Max when throwing some ideas around with liveries. He did a great job on that. It's definitely one of the fan favorites here. Looks awesome. He wanted to do something with the old United States Road Racing Championship kind of theme. So looks great, and it fits the Sebring circuit great. So definitely one that we all can catches our eye. We all can love.
Yeah, well, once again, I'm going to say it again for the people who missed it. I was saying before we went to that little pit lane entry incident, this is a warm-up session, so the drivers are not racing yet. They're not in qualifying, they're not in practice, just warming themselves up for the main event, the race. We will have a rolling start, but we will have a formation lap before we do so. It will be a single file rolling start, and the drivers cannot go before they, of course, the P1 driver gets to the finish line, which will mean that pole position is in fact going to be pole position, and you are going to lead the race for at least the first couple of meters.
Yes, yes. It'll be very interesting to see how the start plays out. Hopefully we all can get through T1 with no problems, with it being such a fairly tricky corner. Yes, and also with our formation lap in R Factor 2, it is a manual formation lap, so we will start on the grid as it looks to be a standing start, but we will take it slowly. The leader will pace the field apart, and there will be a slight gap between the GT1 and the GT2 cars just to give it some space so we don't have a big pile up and bunch everybody up going into T1. So it's kind of unique for R Factor 2, but it's something that helps makes the starts go smoother and easier, and definitely makes the racing more interesting.
Here we have it again. An amazing sounding Toyota car. I love it. It's one of my favorites, like I said, in the GT1 class. And just love the sound of it. 10 minutes left in this warm-up session. We will probably advance a little bit quicker with this warm-up session. As I can hear in my ear that they're doing the pit box check, which is very important. That's maybe why all the drivers went into pit lane a little bit earlier on. That's why we maybe had a little bit of a pile up on the entry of the pit lane. Not usually that you see a pile up a pit entry, but someone just coming to almost a complete stop going into pit lane, someone behind that not immediately expecting that. And well, there you go, you have a big pile up.
Yes, no, they want to do the pit box check just because little R Factor 2 things, sometimes guys can be paired up in the same pit box. You just want to check and see where you're at and make sure, so that way if you need to, you can communicate with another driver, and hopefully if they're in a different class, like a GT1 and a GT2, you wouldn't really have a problem because of pitting on separate laps, but you just want to make sure that everything will still be okay and go to plan. Just kind of a tricky thing to figure out, but it's pretty well manageable.
Talking about the pit stops, how many are we expecting? I think we are at least expecting one here. I don't think any of these cars will be able to make it on one tank of fuel. Maybe 2 stops, it depends on how they the tires. So it's going to be an interesting one.
Yes, it will. Definitely with the fuel, they'll be able to make it on fuel with at least 1 stop, and it just depends on what they want to do with tires. If someone wants to start on hards or if they want to start on softs. If they start on hards, they probably will just take fuel and not change tires. But if someone takes softs, they may change tires as well. And so we'll have to see how that plays out coming towards the end of the race.
Yeah, well, here we go. There are the tires. Softs and hards, Michelin's, Dunlops, Bridgestones. We will all have them here with us today. You can see all the different cars on the left-hand side too. I think yellow marked are the cars that are LMGT2. The white cars are the cars that are LMGT1. So our GT1 field, well, a lot bigger in terms of the variety of cars than our LMGT2 field. Nonetheless, both classes will be very competitive. We'll have to see.
Yes, no, that was kind of for this this era in general. There was definitely, when the cars race in real life, there was more GT1s than GT2s. There was only a few that kind of came around, so there still will be there's still some variety, which is good. Not as much as the GT1, but the GT2 field is still a very interesting class to watch, and always has some good battles.
Yeah, we're still in the warm-up at the moment. We are going to advance to the race pretty shortly. Like we said, we will have a manual formation lap before that, where we will guide you through the starting grid once again, just like we did that time. Though I think it's a good shot to Alec. You do it. I did it once. You do it once. We'll trade it.
Sounds good.
As we're looking here. Ooh, that's a bit deep. You wouldn't want to do that too often in the race. That's going to lose you time. The Mercedes.
Yeah, no, this car. Yeah, no, everyone just trying to figure out their fuel setups. Since we did quali, they only pretty much put a lap of fuel in the car, so now they're loading up their race setups, getting back on those hard tires if that's what they're running, and then running full fuel, so the car feels completely different. So just getting a lap or two just to get back, get the car back under your feet and start to figure out how the car feels with a super heavy load, and kind of get an understanding of how you want to start the race. Can be very tricky, catches a lot of guys out if they don't have it figured out before the start of the race. But most of these guys do. They've put in a lot of practice laps in this, the weeks prior for this race, and a lot of preparation from everyone. So should be a good race, and should be very interesting.
The start of the race is going to be an exciting one. What a track this is, the Sebring International Raceway. Always liked this track, always loved watching races at these tracks because it is such a unique track. I think it's a track with characteristics that no other track really can match. You have tracks, of course, that are special on its own, but like it has the characteristics of another track. You can find it somewhere else. It's not really the case with Sebring, is it?
No, Sebring is its own animal. Definitely has. You won't find another track like Sebring anywhere in the world. Everything about it is just unique. So with how the corners are, and
the closest
and how
to it, I would say, would be Silverstone, but that's still a long way off.
Yes, no, the similarities between Sebring and Silverstone is that they actually both used to be airfields. Silverstone now has been repaved and set for, F1 standards, so they're still similar, but it's more modern, where Sebring is still has the heart of what it was when it first was a track. You still have the bumpy front stretch that was the cement airfield that's so bouncy on the cars, and there has been some sections where they've repaved a little bit to fix some stuff just with aging and everything, but it's still its own animal in its own way, and that's why people love Sebring. Yeah, so
here we go.
How to start the race?
Here we go. Yeah, indeed. It's exciting times here. Drivers will have a 3-minute period now to jump onto the grid. And I think, personally, that this is the perfect time to give us a roundup of our starting grid.
Yes, no, for sure. As we go into the starting grid, John Yuan in P1, Johnny Gutierrez in P2, Magnus Dahlgren in P3, Tom Lane in P4, Ethan Funk in P5, definitely someone to look out for, or top Nissan, Norm Graff in P6, Watser de Brujun in P7, Barry Dimarzo, our top AM GT1 car, Brian Hall in P9, George Angelides in P10, definitely someone to look out for in that screaming Ferrari. Wayne Hutchinson in P11, our third place AM car. Jason Wyden in our other Nissan. Philippe Henrique in our favorite sounding Toyota. Gilles Lalonde in P14. Timon Suvic in P15. Eric Monette in P16 with a very cool livery on the Ferrari, by the way. Victor Geneba in P17. Alex Garicki in P18. Jaquan Codrit in P19. And Luciano Ichazo in P20. And one of the many, many panos this.
Oh, yeah, indeed. It's exciting times here. Drivers will have a 3-minute period now to jump onto the grid. And I think, personally, that this is the perfect time to give us a roundup of our starting grid.
Yeah, Stephen Miller in P21, Alexander Scholes in P22, Becky Fly in P23, Jerry Chen in P24, our first Porsche in the field, Mike Olson in P25, and his teammate Guilherme Benecki in P26, both in the Golf McLaren, Tom Montjoy in the Porsche GT1. Then we get into our GT2 field with Ben Borman in P1 for GT2, but P28, Ross Smith in P29, and Matthew Overton, our first Viper, in P30. Very excited to see. Tim Vanderberg in P31, our top AM GT2 driver, Dave Kurz in P32, Joe Miller in P33, Filippo Marazzi in P34, and our final driver is Maximilian Petrafsky in P35 in our beautiful chrome-looking Porsche 911 GT2.
Well done. Some great pronunciations. Definitely doing a better job than me. So I'm going to let you pronounce the drivers' names, and I can shout on then. Because my pronunciations were definitely not as good at that. I was butchering almost every name in the field. But yeah, well done. Well done on that one. Here we go, of course. We're looking forward to the race. We've said it many times now. Here is the calendar once again, of course, at Sebring now on the 4th of March, 1.2 hours at Sebring. The 25th of March, we will have the 250 kilometers of Oschersleben, 250 kilometers of Silverstone on the 1st of April. Again, 250 kilometers on the 6th of May of Hockenheim. That's going to be an exciting one. Looking forward to that one. 2.4 hours of, you guessed it, Le Mans on the 20th of May. Looking forward to that one. Always a great race to look at. The 29th of July, 250 kilometers of Dijon. Hungaroring, we will have the 19th of August, 250 kilometers as well. 2nd of September, the 400 kilometers of Suzuka. That's an exciting track. I would love to see these old cars go around there. 3rd of September, we will have the 250 kilometers of Donington Park. Then we have the 250 kilometers of Austria on the 28th of October, the 250 kilometers of Miami on the 25th of November, and the 2nd of December, the 250 kilometers of Laguna Seca to round off what will be hopefully a great racing year of 2023.
Yes, very excited for this unique vintage calendar. And as we start to make our way on our pace lap, drivers trying to warm up the tires, not too much weaving or anything. It's not really allowed in this series, it's just to try and keep everyone safe. They are dragging their brakes a little bit to build some brake temperature, but just kind of getting a slow pace and getting the field set up for the start of this great race. I think this is going to be really cool to see all these vintage cars blast their way around Sebring.
Yeah, it's going to be one that I definitely look forward to. What a track this is. We said it multiple times now. It's a great track, and it will be John, of course, leading the way at the front of the field, going green in just a moment's time. Personal favorites here, of course, we don't have up here in the commentary, but if you do have a personal favorite, let us know in YouTube chat, and we'll try and give you some information on where they are. Of course,
yes,
with us here today, Alec, of course, has driven these cars, or one of these cars. I don't know exactly which one of these cars you've driven again.
I was in the Porsche. I was one of the lone guys who ran a Porsche for Daytona.
All right, so in the Porsche. So, well, if there's one man to ask things about these historic cars, it is going to be Alex. So great to have him alongside it. Of course, on production, Paul, of course, doing an awesome job behind the scenes. The man behind it all. You don't hear it too often. Of course, a roaming pit reporter as well. If we need to know anything, he's the man to ask him to, and we'll bring him into the broadcast to you, the man with all the information. Here we go then, coming up to the run-up on Sunset. And, well, amazing one this is going to be. The Toyota, of course, lining up in third. A single file start, something that you don't see often.
Yes, no, they just like to keep it single file, just so that way we don't have any mishaps going through the first part of the track. So even though it is single file, you think it still can be very competitive going into T1. So everyone is very close, and so you still may see some dive bombs into T1. Hopefully we can just keep it clean though, as turn 1 is one of the more tricky turns on this track. The final corner and turn 1 are the hardest corners on the track. So very interesting to see, but as we come around the final corner looking to go green, I'm hoping to have a really good race.
Yeah, of course, here we go. John coming to the green flag. And he's only allowed to go once he hits start finish, and then we'll go green, green, green. And there he goes with green, the green, green, 72 minutes on this Sebring Raceway. We're already side by side a bit further back some lane, trying to already overtake the Toyota. He doesn't quite manage to do so. Here we have the GT2 field. They will go green in just a moment, time to. When they hit start finish, Ben Borman starting in pole position there. There we go, green, green, green as well now for the GT2 field. Not the best start though for Borman. He might be overtaken by Smith into turn 1. He's going to have a look up the inside. Can't quite make it stick though. But so far, so good it seems like, Alec.
Yes, it's been a great start. It was cool to see Ben and Ross battling as they are teammates in the GT2 class. But as we come back up front to the GT1s, we have John Yuan trying to pull away a little bit. It's still early in the race, but we have Panos 1-2 and then Magnus Dahlgren in that beautiful Toyota. We'll definitely have to see. The Panos are very strong at the beginning of the race, so as we get into the finals, as we get into the end of this stint, we'll have to see where the cars are. Right now, they're going to run very strong, but with that big engine in the front, it can wear out the rears really, really fast. So we just have to be patient in general to see where everything ends up. It wouldn't surprise me at the end of this stint if we have a Nissan with Ethan Funk, who's running right now in 4th, if he can come back and be in the mix.
Top 3 already having a little bit of a gap. This could be just early race things here with these 3 cars, but the gap to P4 already about 3.5 seconds. That is already quite a big gap. Here we see the 3 chasing them, who already also have a little bit of a gap back to P7 as well. It's like some groups already forming. Here we go, Tom Lane is going to try and make his way past Funk again. He does manage to do so. No, he doesn't into Sunset. Funk is going to try and carry that car around the outside. Can't quite manage to do so. Is going to get the better exit though onto the main straight.
Yes, he gets the better exit, but that Panos just has a lot of power underneath it, so it'll pull away a little bit as we get into T1.
Wow.
Drivers are pushing as hard as they can right now, trying to be very precise and be very aggressive as they get onto the opening laps. They don't want to lose that lead group too much, but as we see in this back group, look at how close everybody is as we come through just on the second lap.
Traffic gonna come into play a little bit later on in this race as well. Of course, 4 minutes or 3.5 minutes almost already ahead of this race. That's how quickly this race goes. Lap time, first lap time for the drivers. The quickest lap time last around 1:59.461. Not too bad there from the drivers. A little bit of a look there from the inside of Tom Lane. Can't quite make it stick though, but he is challenging him for that 4th position.
Yeah, as we see Walter and the Mercedes come back, that Mercedes has a lot of power, so it gets off the corner very well. He looked to maybe make a move, but he likes to tuck back. Oh, Ethan Funk going a little wide right there. Let's see if he can come back through on this next section.
That has allowed Tom Lane to get away a little bit from him. And now the Mercedes behind that in the hands of Porter de Bruyn is gonna do everything in his power to get past Funk. Of course, Ethan Funk in the 336. P5 from at the moment. Look at the power of that Mercedes already gaining a little bit there. This is a crucial corner. You want to get this corner right because it is going to lead to a little bit of power section. Here we go. It's this one that I was mistaken it for. This is the back stretch. Running into Sunset. 2 very similar corners to the right. Can't quite make anything happen so far. Does it change for the lead though at the front? It is Gutierrez who I think is challenging.
Yes, he's going to get the drive off the corner coming down the front stretch. Is very close with these 2 Panos. We'll have to see who has the better trim coming into T1.
This is not helping them. The Toyota behind is sticking with them because they're fighting. They're still side by side coming out of turn 1 though. Who's going to take this?
Oh, as you see the Toyota come and look for a move, and Johnny goes for the block, and John Yuan is still up front.
Magnus Dahlgren patiently waiting his turn to wait when he can try and make his move on Johnny Gutierrez in front of him. Of course, in the number 45. this race at the moment unfolding itself pretty quickly. P4 though, Tom Lane catching up pretty quickly. That gap was up at about 3.5 seconds. Gap back down to about 3 seconds, so half a second gain last time round.
Yes, the top three are all running hard tires. Oh, as we may have an incident in the back. Let's get a replay on that.
Oh, where's it going to happen? Let's hope it isn't too big of an incident for Toyota. Seems to be running well. Seems to be running well. It happened a little bit earlier on. BrianB. That's the one who's dropped back now. And Dahlgren has got past Ewan at the front. A change for P2. The number 89 has gone past the number 111. And Gutierrez is now the one out in front too. So there's been the lead change too there as well. Philip Henrique is the one we're looking at, the number 28 Toyota GT1. Of course, at the moment in 17. Here is that battle. And it seems like though Magnus Dahlgren is still in P3 if we look at it this way. But Gutierrez is given a P1, so he is now. Is that
a slight wobble from Magnus there. Oh, great pass up the inside.
Great move.
Yes, see that section. As we cut back to the front, we see the Magnus trying to reel in Johnny Gutierrez and the Panos. These guys have to be very gentle, not to push the car too much. In this opening stint, you don't want to burn out your tires. They may be on the hard tires, but with these cars having so much power and how bouncy they are, you really want to be careful. And as we look behind them, actually, that group of cars that they pulled away from a little bit are starting to slowly close in on them.
Yeah.
With that battle sequence, we see Tom Lane and Ethan Funk slowly starting to come back into things and going to fight for the top positions.
But it seems like the Toyota is losing less pace, though, than the Panos cars are. It seems, Tom Lane is not losing any pace in the Panos, though. He's been catching up to Ewan. Now, the interesting thing is, did they maybe start too quickly, get those tires onto the edge of the cliff, and they've probably now maybe pushed it over?
Yes, there's definitely a possibility that they have pushed a little too hard in the beginning and slowly just worn out those tires. Oh, big lockup right there from Tim Vanderberger. But yep, just with how everything is with Tim, actually, he's been able to hold up with the pros right now with him being an AM driver. But back to those GT1s, if you overpush the car just a little bit, the tires have a big fall off, so you don't want to heat them up and just start burning them away too fast. As we look back in the M field, guys having a really close battle, so we'll have to see how this plays out. Joe Miller in front of Filippo is actually a pro driver. As we cut back to the front now, Eric Monet.
It's going for
spin right there.
And that's Eric Monet round. Takes someone with him. I think that was Funk. Ethan Funk was involved in that too. Nothing he can do there. Went all the way to the inside, wall. Here we're going to have another look at it. Both drivers running quite well. This is pretty early on. We're going to go on to the run to sunset now. But what up to that car so much? He had it off track before. We can see that too here. He's going to get the better exit point.
That was not Funk. That actually was Funk's teammate. I do not know who that is, but
Well, that was unfortunate there. Both drivers. We're going to have another look at it here. Here's the replay. And he's just
like as we
over the bump. Yeah, the bump on the entry.
Yep. That's what we've talked about. Was that we may see that a lot today with just how bumpy the final corner is. So we'll catch a lot of guys out on the rear end. Oh, and as he's off track again and in the grass. Oh, wow! Braking zone. Yep. May have some damage and into the wall. That is not what you want to see.
Let's hope that
car definitely has some damage and he's struggling to fight with it. But if we go back to the front, we have Johnny Gutierrez and the Panos starting to pull a little bit of a gap. 3 seconds or so right now to Magnus behind him.
That was an unfortunate incident there for who was that again? I've lost his name already. yeah, Eric Monet indeed. I'm getting I'm hearing in my ears. It was Eric Monet who was involved in that crash. That's a heavy crash for him. Let's hope that that car is still drivable back to pit lane. For him to already probably take his first pit stop, and he will probably try to stretch that. A little bit of a snap there though from the Toyota from Ewan. Under pressure from Tom Lane. Where can Tom Lane try that? He's pressurizing the Toyota from John Ewan into mistakes, into slides. That's going to wear Ewan his tires out too in that Toyota. So it's a matter of time, I think, before Tom Lane is going to get past if Ewan is going to keep sliding that car how he is now.
Yes, as we said, we get into these early laps and the cars are very good in the beginning, but as the tires heat up, they start to fall very quickly in some of these cars. So I will say this, with how the series is, the cars that are slower, like the Nissan and the Porsche, they tend to come back at the end of the stint, and that was what I had my success with in Daytona. Was at the start, everyone pulled away from me, but at the end of the stint, the tires were much more manageable, so we were able to come back with it. So you just kind of have to let the race settle in, give it a little bit of time, get to the end of the stint, and then as long as you're still with them at the end of the stint, if you still have the better tires at the end of the stint, you can start to finally make your move. Right now, these cars in front just have a lot of power underneath them, so it's really hard to try and make a move.
Yeah, well, we're coming up to about an hour to go, 12 minutes done. And every time on the hour, I'd like to do a little bit of a race update. We'll wait a little bit with that because Ewan is fighting here with Tom Lane again. John Ewan.
And as we see Ethan Funk behind him, he seemed to have gotten a good drive in the Nissan. They're all going to look to the inside, but still, those panos just have so much power underneath the hood. There's not much they can really do.
I have to apologize because I mistaken John Ewan for the Toyota that's driving up at, which is Dahlgren, of course. So excuse me for that mistake earlier on. Toyota though having enough power to pull away here on the main straight. Accelerating not the best thing for the Toyota, but power. That's all that Toyota is about. Is now going to defend the inside once again. It's a carbon copy of what we had last time round.
And Ethan Funk looked to the inside of Tom behind him. Wasn't able to make the move, but it was very close as they went into that second corner.
Well, the 336 Ethan Funk still circulating his teammate. Of course, we saw that involved in the crash a little bit earlier on. We've had an hour. I'm just going to quickly go over the top three of every class. Gutierrez is leading in the AM class. Here we have it, Johnny Gutierrez, Magnus Dahlgren, and John Ewan is the top three in that class. 7 laps completed for these cars. Barry Dimarzo and George Angelidis P1 and P2 in the GT1 AM class. So those two leading there. Here we have Wayne Hutchison in third in that class. Stephen Miller in fourth. Becky Eddy in P5. That's the top 5 there, as we saw a car off in the background. That's not what you want to see in the GT2 Pro. We have Ben Portman, Ross Smith and Matthew Overton leading the way there. 6 laps completed for those three. The GT2 AM class, Tim van der Berg, Filippo Marazzi and Maximilian, go on, pronounce that for me.
Maximilian Perfracki.
Yeah, definitely did a better job than I would have done at that. In P3. So that's your top 3 looking at the hour mark. Back to the racing now. 5.7 seconds of a lead for Johnny Gutierrez at the front of the field though.
Yes, he is really starting to pull away. Seems to be doing good. Seems to not have as much tire fall off and it just has really, really strong pace. But as we look at this battle, Ethan Funk is trying to get the drive on Tom Lane off the corner. As you look at the straight, Tom just slowly inches away. Not by much, but just slowly inches in that pano so he can get the power down to it. Ethan comes back through the infield section where it's really high speed and high downforce. Oh, and we have a car off track. Magnus looks to go off track because of the lapper. That'll allow John Ewan back up and into second.
So
as
traffic already playing into the game here. Gonna get a replay of that. Here he's still ahead. It's gonna happen into turn 1. I don't think actually that will be due to the traffic that we saw. I think that is just him running a little bit wide. We see, yeah, just running a little bit wide. The traffic had nothing to do with that. Maybe thinking about the traffic a little bit too early. Wanted to get through the traffic very quickly. That had nothing to do with the LMGT2.
If we look at Ethan Funk, it looks like he's able to make the move on Tom Lane as he dives to the inside right here. So that'll put Ethan back up into fourth. Oh, Tom Lane with a little, oh, good save. He just got the power down a little too early. That Panos has a lot of power, as we said, so it's really easy to lose it a little bit and lose the rear end.
Well, here we go. We're going to get a replay of that. They're side by side here. Tom Lane, the outside.
Yeah, it looked as if Ethan was able to make the move. Magnus checked up a little bit, and that allowed Ethan to cut to the inside and make the move on Tom. But as we see Tom coming through this section, he just taps Ethan a little bit and tries to get on the power and still saves it. So he's still in this race, just a little mishap, and hopefully he didn't wear the tires anymore.
Let me tell you what, he's going to need a new pair of underpants after that one. He did well to hang on to that car. Meanwhile, though, at the front, you went up into second again, but an 8.2 second gap took a chance. He's just extending as we see the Toyota now being overtaken by Ethan Funk. That is Magnus Dahlgren in the number 89 Toyota. Now here's the strength point of the Toyota. This straightaway, we're going to see him pull ahead a little bit again, but now the corner is the real pain point of that Toyota. And there we go. The Nissan gets ahead, and it's P3 for Ethan Funk.
Yes, no, it was a very good move. Was really patient through it. Magnus just lost the rear end a little bit coming through the final corner, and that allowed Ethan to get a little bit better drive and set that up very well. He set that up coming through the straight and just trying to be on the inside going into turn 2 where it tightens back up so he could make the move.
Yeah, brilliant move there from Ethan, and well worked that move. That wasn't a move done in one corner. That was a move done in multiple corners, setting him up coming out of Sunset. Of course, going into turn 1 where he, of course, had to stick to the inside, but that all started at Sunset where he set him up.
Yes, and as we're looking at Magnus right now, it looks like he's having a little bit of tire wear. As you see him come off the corner, he's struggling to keep the rear end planted. It's happened a couple times. It's allowed Walter to come back up into play and try and fight for him. And it looks like we possibly have our first DNF.
Yeah, if I look on my timing sheet,
yes, Tim Vardenberg, that was our leader in GT2 AM in the Viper.
Yeah. That's
sad to see.
That now means, though, Alec, that we will have only 2 cars running now in the GT2.
And as we were talking about that, Tom Lane actually was able to get back around Walter de Bruin as they come up on traffic. Going to be really tight coming into Sunset.
He's going to get him, though. Oh, he's not. I thought for a second he was going to get him maybe on the exit. Tom Lane didn't have the best exit out of Sunset. Now to turn 1. One of the Brian is going to try and slipstream. Mercedes, though, not quite quick enough on the brakes, though it seems to be a little bit better.
He tries to come to the inside, coming into the second corner. He doesn't have enough time, but under braking, that Mercedes is very good, and it's a little bit better than the Panos under braking, so closing speeds will be really close. So hopefully he can try and get close enough to dive to the inside in the next few corners.
Out of the Brian. Of course, that sounds like a Dutch name if I look on my entry list, which I have right in front of me here. Walter de Bruin, of course, racing in the LMGT 1 Pro class, is indeed a Dutch driver. So come on, Walter, rooting for you. That's a Dutchman. But yeah, great to see just drivers from all over the world, different nationalities that we have here in this class. Of course, we have Americans, we have of course Dutch people in here, we have South African in the name of Carl Bessa, of course, in here too. We have a Brazilian. We have so many different nationalities in here, and that's great to see.
Yes, with this series being on a Saturday and with the time we're able to run it, it's a good time for everyone across the world to try and come in and compete with this great series that we've been able to put on. So very interesting to see all the different forms of, in all the different areas we're able to come together and compete together. So it makes it very interesting.
Well, there we go. This is the GT3 AM class with the retirement, of course, from Vandenberg. And leading the way in that class is Marazzi at the moment in the number 147. Here he is in the Porsche. And I have to say, that is a lovely livery that he's running on that car. One of my favorites, I think my second favorite livery I've seen here this evening after the silver Porsche. Both Porsches though.
Yes. I will thank you for that because I actually spent a lot of time in that livery.
Did you?
I've been helping out. Yes, it is. I've actually, a couple of the cars in the field today are liveries that I've made. Filippo is running one of the ones that I made for the GT2. And if you go to the Golf Racing McLaren guys of Gulharam and Mike Olson, their Golf McLarens are also 2 liveries that I was able to make for them. So pretty cool to have my own personal touch out on the track today.
Yeah, now I have to say though, if we go to the GT1 field, there it is. That's a great livery, that Golf livery. Iconic livery, the Golf livery, of course, aging back to very, very far in the past. And it's lovely, of course, now sponsoring Williams F1 team Formula 1 as well as Golf. So I kind of hoped, in the back of my mind, I had a little bit of hope that maybe they would come out with a retro Golf livery. They didn't though, they kept true to the Williams project, and sadly it's just as boring as the Red Bull livery, didn't change much, and it's basically 2 of the same cars. That's enough about F1. Getting back to the action, Ethan Funk is at the moment in second. He's overtaking Ewan. The Ogrindo and the Toyota is dropping back massively. 5 seconds already back from Ethan Funk. So it seems like the tires from that Toyota are dropping off pretty quickly.
Yes, as I've said before, as with some of these higher horsepower cars, the tire wear will definitely come into effect. It doesn't seem to be affecting Johnny Gutierrez as much as he's been able to pull away. But Ethan Funk has come back through this field. He didn't qualify the best, but as we get later on into the stint, his tires have been very good, so he's able to come back through and he's finding more pace as the race comes on. He's being really smart and letting the race come to him.
Yeah. Go for it. He's going to go for it.
Yeah, as we come on, it looks to be Ross Smith battling with Matthew Overbridge right now, actually behind them for second place in a GT2.
I have to say though, the GT2 cars to me really look like GT cars, like, you know, Grand Tour cars. For the people that don't know, Grand Tour back in the day was a tour between countries. I'm not going to go too deep into the history of Grand Tour, but that's what the GT is named after. Now, if I go to the LMGT1 field, I cannot help but just see the fact that they don't really look like GT cars to me.
No, this was an era where the GT1 regulations at the time were, hey, if you build one car, you have a spin with Tom Lane.
Yeah, Tom Lane, excuse me. Not Tom Voss. Tom Voss is not the driver. Tom Lane round. That's unfortunate. Here we go. Gotta get a replay of that. And that was into, I think, turn 7, wasn't it?
Yes, that's what it looks like to be. Just coming through the back part of the track. Really tight corner. He was battling with Magnus there, trying to get around him. And as he just came into the corner, he just was really smooth coming in. But he clipped that curb on the front wheel and just tried to give it a little too much and lost the rear end. So very tricky part of the track. And he did do that earlier on. So just trying to find the pace and he's pushing. Has a spin again.
Round again. And that is, I think, yeah, his tires are gone. That was the run up to Sunset. And that is a tricky one. That was turn 16. Oh, that's unfortunate there for him. People into the pit lane now. It seems like we're gonna have a little bit of a pit stop cycle here.
Yes, I think I believe the guys who are coming in now are trying to either pit early, or maybe trying to attempt a 2-stop, trying to get the undercut to get some track position, or they may try and go in and try and make the 2-stop for the pits. So we'll have to see how it plays out.
Yeah, well, of course, the 2-stop has the advantage of running new tires and also running lighter fuel, because the people that do the 1-stop, they are going to be probably lighter on fuel now, but they are going to be heavier on fuel a little bit later on in the race, and they were heavier on fuel as well at the beginning of this race. So that means that you will have a fuel advantage or a weight advantage, which will of course make you quicker because weight is time in the world of motorsports, and you will have a tire advantage, so you will have more grip, and more grip equals a better time. for the Motorsport rookies well, here under us. Here we go once again, little roundup of how it's looking. Johnny Gutierrez is leading the way in the LMGT1 ahead of John Ewan and Magnus Dahlgren in P3. This is the last position for P11 to P17. Have a quick look through them, see where your favorite driver is. Wayne Hutchinson is leading the LMGT1 AM class ahead of Becky Ellie and Barry Dimarzo in P3. Of course, this is the LMGT2 Pro Field. Ben Borman leading the way ahead of Matthew Overtone. Ross Smith in P3. Feel free to pause the stream if you need to see where your favorite driver is. Maximilian Putravki, I hope I pronounced that correctly. You can correct me afterwards. Felipe Marazzi, of course, running in second there. So there has been a switch for first position there. And then, of course, Tim Vandenberg, of course, with a DNF. We didn't quite see, or ILs didn't see any off tracks on my timing screen. So that must have been a disconnect for Vandenberg.
Yes, no, we hate to see it. Just some of the R Factor 2 problems that we have, I'm sure I've had my fair share of them. So, but sad to see. He was running really well and could have definitely got some good points today. But hey, the series is a long series, and so and the GT2M isn't as deep of a field. So if he wanted, he definitely can still come back later in the season and make this up.
Yeah, well, a very, very long season, of course, runs till the end of the year this season, and not very many series do that. As we're looking to another replay now. Let's take a look at what is exact. Oh, we're already off the track. Don't know who we're with. There we go.
That looks to be Wayne Hutchinson.
And he was already off track. That was coming out of Sunset. That was not the best showing from Hutchinson. We got the end of it. And, well, unfortunate there, to be honest, Alec.
Yes, but he still looks to be in P1 as we're talking, so running very well. Wayne is definitely the one of the top AMs in this class, and one of the guys who we talked about before in the pre-race broadcast, that one of those guys who probably should be in pro and will probably be moved up here eventually. He runs very strong and is a very fast driver, so we'll have to see how it plays out.
Well, I don't know if it's because Dimarzo has made a pit stop. As far as I know, if I look on my timing screen and I look at Dimarzo, first I'm going to have to find him. Where is he? Dimarzo is at the moment overall in P9, and he
has pitted.
He has made a pit stop, so that's maybe why Hutchinson did have such a big lead. I don't know if Hutchinson is going to do a one-stop. That's going to be something that we're going to have to see. A little bit of a slide for Angelino. Oh. Catches it. And that was a power slide and a half for the Cavalian. Well, that was a great save from him.
George, yep. George had definitely had one of those pucker moments and may need to change some underwear. That Ferrari is definitely a tricky one to try and maintain.
Yeah, that Ferrari seems like a tricky one. The McLaren F1 GTR. I've seen this car in person at the 24 Hours of Spa last year. This car was actually driving around before the race started, which, well, was great to see. The sound of the car is just incredible. And, yeah, man, would I have loved to live in that era to see that car go around the track, because, you know, just thinking back to those days, it would have been amazing. Walter at the moment in second. Dahlgren in first in that class. Of course, people making pit stops already. Dahlgren, De Bruyn, and Jozo behind that, still needing to make a pit stop. The rest already has been into pit lane.
Yes, Johnny Gutierrez is in the pits right now as we speak, or has just finished his pit stop from what it looks like, with Ethan Funk right behind him. So Ethan Funk did make that strong move of trying to pit early and then coming back in and trying to get the undercut.
Well, so see if it's gonna work out, because maybe pitting early means that you're gonna have to make a second stop, or because if you couldn't make the tires last for what 30 minutes now, well, you're gonna have fun trying to do that for well 45 minutes.
Yes.
So
you know, and yes, this track is really hard on tire wear, so they are all running the hard tires from what I can see on my timing screen. So it's definitely running down a lot, so it's hard for them to try and manage. And with this track and with the temperatures we have here today, tire wear is being a big thing. So if this race probably could have went to a one-stop strategy, but with the tire wear, it looks to be like the tires are going to wear out faster than what your fuel will, so you will have to make multiple stops.
Yeah. Well, Gutierrez and Funk, that gap has come down. It seems like before the pit stops, that gap was somewhere around, well, 10 seconds. If I look at my timing screen now, you can see in there in the background, that is not 10 seconds anymore. That seems like a gap of 4 to 5 seconds to me. So Ethan Funk has closed up to Gutierrez. Maybe the early stages of the stint where this Nissan is a bit quicker.
Yes. He definitely was able to close the gap in the end of the stint earlier. But with him pitting early, his tires are already up to temp and already in their main pace window. So Johnny, he will close up a little bit on Johnny, but as the stint kind of comes around, Johnny, it wouldn't surprise me to see him pull away a little bit, but towards the end, I can see Funk reeling him back in.
Yeah, well, it's going to be difficult for him to do that, really. It's not unheard of. The gap now 2.8 seconds. You can see already the magic getting to work for Gutierrez, already trying to extend that gap a little bit. And if he does succeed in that, we might see another replica of what we saw before. Gutierrez, of course, remember, did not start too far to the front. If I look at my time screen, I can see exactly how many positions he's gained. No, I'm lying, I cannot. But no, he wasn't, well, he didn't start at the front of the field. Is now at the front of the field, so plus 3.5 seconds. If we see that, we might see him lead with a gap of about 15, 16, maybe 17 seconds at the end of this stint.
Yes, no, we'll just have to see how it all plays out. But with this pit cycle, traffic will definitely come into play here soon with just how the cars are spread out around the circuit. So just have to be patient and see what we can do.
Mistake for Jason White in there. Johnny Ewan is ahead of him in P12. A little bit of a mistake there for the Nissan. However, though, Hanno is ahead of him. A penalty?
Yes, I see Joe Miller with a drive-through penalty for speeding in pit lane.
Oh no, that's an unnecessary one. Let's be honest.
Yeah, just I guarantee he probably came in a little too fast coming into the pits, and as he goes off track into the wall. Oh no, that is not what you want to see. Our lone Mustang in the field today.
That Mustang did. Well, it seemed like he just wanted to go straight on. That was a close rejoin too. In the wars is Miller here. Let's hope not too much damage to that car. Let's hope Joe Miller can just drive that car safely back to pit lane to serve that drive-through. Do what he needs to do by race control. See where he's going to come out after that. Is currently at the back end of the LMGT2 Pro field. What I am noticing now too is that Petrovsky already has a gap of a lap over Marazzi in the LMGT2 and Plus.
Yes, Marazzi didn't have as much pace as what Petrovsky did, and through that pit cycle, it may have been able to. Marazzi may have had a longer pit stop, maybe because of some damage or something, so that'll put Petrovsky in the lead a little bit. So, but as we cut into Ross Smith, he's trying to close the gap. There's still a big gap to Ben Borman and Matthew Overton in front of him. So we'll just have to see how this GT2 class plays out. They tend to span out a lot, so you kind of get your little swings of close battles, and then they span out again. So you have to be patient with that, with those cars.
Dave Kurz is the man in P4 in the LMGT2 Pro class. This is a look at the leader of the GT2 AM class. We're going to look at a little bit of a replay here from the leader. Here we go. Where he's going to go? What's going to happen here? Oh, that might have been it. Oh, no, there we go. There it is, and that is a proper off-track moment. So I think he got away a little bit too early there. He was maybe going for another spin, and that has dropped him back into the clutches of the 147 Marazzi. However, though, Marazzi better as well. A lap down. Here we go. We're going to have a look at it again. I think we're a little bit too late. I think it really happened before this. There we go. Back to live pictures. And it's once again the 147 chasing down the leader.
Oh, he's off again.
The track. Under pressure from the 147. He's going to rejoin ahead of him. He's going to have to give him that position, and he does. But that was a heart-and-mouth moment for the leader in that class. Why push so hard? You would say just let him pass. You have a lap ahead of him.
Yes, they're just fighting for that position, so there's no need to fight here, so he just needs to be patient with this battle. But if I'm looking at his live timing, it looks as if Ethan Funk is in the lead now.
Yeah, Ethan Funk gone up into the lead. There we go. A second over Gutierrez.
Yes, so see, as I said, later in the race, as this plays out with the tires, they definitely are losing some tread. So it looks like with how this is playing out, I believe that no one took tires, and it may have just been fuel. And so with that being said, with this being a ×2 fuel race and with tires, Ethan Funk has come back. Yes. With Ethan Funk pitted earlier, and then Johnny pitted. But when they came out, Johnny was actually in front of Ethan. But with that tire wear, Ethan was able to come back through. So definitely an interesting choice of strategies, and we'll have to see how it all plays out at the end of the race.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to see. 35 minutes left. We're already over halfway. That's how quickly this race is going. And Ethan Funk, just a little bit over the halfway point, is leading the way in the LMGT1 class. Gutierrez second and Hall in third. So quite a good top three here from the GT1 class. And gonna see the power change a little bit now, it seems like, getting to the latter stages of this race.
Yeah, no, as things play out, we're going to slowly start to see how everyone's strategy and tire wear are starting to play out. And as we look at it, Ethan Funk is starting to pull away. Johnny Gutierrez seems to be struggling on pace now as this race plays out. The Panos, like I said, is really fast in the beginning, but as the tires come through, it can be very hard to come back around.
Well, he is still the quickest Panos though on the track, is Gutierrez, by a long shot, because the lead from the top two to P3 is about 21.5 seconds, so not too bad at all, I think, there for Gutierrez. Has a little bit of a buffer back, so is allowed to make a mistake here or there. It is going to help his chances to fight for that victory, but it wouldn't hamper him too much, I think, in taking that second position. However, though, race is still long, so that gap could easily be closed down with how the tires are working here this evening. That's a little bit deep for Luciano, so he's going to have to watch out. Nothing or no harm done there so far, not running off track, but just a little bit deep there from Luciano.
Yes, no, he's battling right now with George Angelides, who is the top AM driver right now. So this is a pass for overall position, not for class position, but overall. So he'll want to get around George to try and get back up and fight with Brian Hall. But it will be tricky because George doesn't need to let him by. He's not lapping him. This still is for a main position. So we'll have to see how this plays out with how everything is starting to with these tires.
Yeah, George Angelides in P2. The number 30. Not looking too bad. Here's Victor Llanera in the number 32 Mercedes-Benz in P9. Here's the gap between those two, 0.6 of a second. Where is he going to try and make that pass? I have to say, the Ferrari not looking like the most GT looking car. That Mercedes kind of looks like a GT1-esque car. It kind of looks like a car that would be legal at the time. It definitely wouldn't be now, but a car that would be legal at the time on the roads. But yeah, that Ferrari looking mighty quick.
Yes, no, those Ferraris definitely have a decent amount of pace, and you have to admit, with that F1 V12
Tom Lane going for it. Hold up. Tom Lane going for the battle here. Tom Lane going for it down the inside of Victoria. And he's taken that position up. It's a P9. Is the number 94 of Tom Lane.
Yes, that was a good pass. He set that up great through T1 and hit it down and into T2.
Well, making great use of the fact that, well, Victor was too focused on the Ferrari ahead of him.
Yeah, no, he was just trying to be patient and looking to set up something, but you have to be aware at all times of someone behind you. So Tom Lane just kind of came up, but Tom has had the better pace all day. I think just a couple little incidents is what's put Tom in the back when he was running up front with the lead group for a while.
Yeah, well, Norm Graff in, that's deep again. He's also got past Norm Graff. So, well, Tom's flying. Tom's flying. I don't know if we can get a look at Tom. He's got past Norm Graff as well. There we go, Tom Lane flying in that Panos compared to the Ferrari and, well, the Mercedes behind that. That is, once again, a little bit of a mystery moment for Tom Lane. He's been wringing the neck of that car, hasn't he? He's been doing his absolute best. But look at the gap he's created. The Mercedes behind us round. A beautiful 360 and continues his way.
Yeah, it's maybe a flat spot of the tires a little bit, but doesn't seem to have any damage from it, so he'll still be able to get back up and on pace. But yes, Tom is absolutely pushing that car right now. As we cut back to the battle between Magnus Dahlgren and Walter de Bruyn, those guys are definitely having some major tire wear. You've seen them fall back. Magnus was in the lead at one point of this race, but as the tires play out, it'll make the difference. But as we cut back to Ethan Funk, he's on a flyer right now with how everything is playing out in this race. Ethan just seems to have the best tires at the moment and is able to carry the best pace. And I said that at the beginning of the race, that some of the slower cars are able to come back through the field and run the fastest pace at the end of the stint and at the end of the race.
You did. Well, boy, were you right with that. Ethan Funk, we're not at the end of the race yet. Do you think that, the pace can change again? It looks like the gap to just the cars behind that is going to keep opening up. The gap is now about, 27 seconds for Gutierrez to P3 hole. And I think Funk isn't going to look back at that P3. If he gets P3 now, he'll be very disappointed. I think at some point, if he keeps driving like this, he can make an extra pit stop.
Yes, no, I think they will have to make an extra pit stop for fuel. It just depends on who decides to take tires and who doesn't. So if they do take tires, as we've seen at the beginning of the race, when you're on a fresh set of tires, the Panos and the Mercedes behind him have the best pace just because they have that much power through the beginning part of the race, but they wear the tires faster. Whereas Ethan doesn't have the power, but he's easier on the tires over a lap. And that was the same thing. And I know that from experience because with the Porsche, the Nissan and the Porsche are set up very similarly, where they don't have the strongest pace in the beginning and they don't have as much power. But towards the end, they come back. And as we look at Walter, he's slowly starting to reel in Magnus here. So hopefully here in the next couple of laps, he can try and make a move and get up and into fifth.
Well, the thing is, as I always look at it, traffic coming into play here.
Yeah, as Magnus just tries to get around Gulharm there, we have to see if Walter can do the same. It's very, very close coming through and under the bridge.
How close do you want it? You ask, we deliver for the VWSC historic. Great move to get through traffic. No traffic gonna make easy. Way, that was so close to the back. And there was an off moment in the background as well. That is the leader of the LMGT2 Funks has had a little bit of an off track, and that is true because here it is. Again goes off track, and there in the background is Gutierrez. And can Gutierrez now make that move? Here we go. The gap's opening up a little bit. Where is he going to be able to make that move?
going to be very close because with them having low tire, with having a lot of wear, you have to be very gentle and patient to see where you go. But as we see the lappers, shout out to Stephen Miller for letting them to all come by and continue racing smoothly.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Ethan Funk leading this race about 8 tenths has allowed Gutierrez to come back into this, which isn't the smartest thing to do, though.
No, but as he's doing that, if we look now, he's able to pull the gap now to about a second or so. So it's been a little, he's going to slowly try and start pulling away. Hopefully Johnny doesn't let him get too far ahead so he can still be in it when the next pit cycle comes. But there's one thing I would like to mention with this. So the best lap for the two guys up front were both 56.4s. But now, as we're getting into the race...
Leader of the AM class off! Leader of the AM class, Petrovka is off! Luckily for him, that was at a point where he could easily get back onto the track, but Petrovka is a little bit all over the place. Marazzi seems to have closed down about a gap of what, 60, 70 seconds here over the last couple of laps?
Yes, it's been a very good lap. Marazzi is just trying to stay consistent and trying to close the gap as much as he can. Petrovka just needs to take it easy and just be able to keep managing his pace. But back to what I was saying with this tire fall off, their best laps were both 56.4s, and now both of them are running in the 2 minutes in 2:01s. So the pace fall off from these tires is a lot. So it's how can you manage the tire as the race comes around. Now with the tires being down, it's who can drive the car fastest at 7 tenths. You're not trying to go all out because you have to manage. So how can you manage driving at 7 tenths? As we are starting to get down into the race, it's been very close so far. So, as we are now watching Johnny Gutierrez and Ethan Funk slowly battle for the lead, it's been they're really close as they're coming through the field. We now cut back to what I believe to be Magnus and Walter, yes, as they're coming up on George Andalidis. I don't know if that is for position or not, if that is for traffic. Oh, it is for position. George Andalidis is in front of them right now, so they're trying to work their way through some of the AM drivers. George will not let them by because this is for an overall position, so he still will fight them a little bit. Won't make it too easy on them, but because of that, it's allowed Wasser to slowly start closing up the gap ahead.
Where is he going to go, though? Walter de Bruin, is he going to overtake? Not quite yet. For some reason, it shows Walter de Bruin already as fourth, but it seems like Magnus Dahlgren is still ahead of him on my screen. There we go, here's the overtake then, I think. He's going to go to the outside of Magnus Dahlgren. And here we go, set that up beautifully there, Walter. And that is a great move by Walter de Bruin, and now he can chase down because Hall is ahead of him, and he will maybe be able to catch and go up into one of the podium spots. Well, it is Ethan Funk still leading the way here. Johnny Gutierrez in second. And Paul, I don't know if you have any information, but it seems like Johnny Gutierrez is picking up the pace a little bit here.
Yeah, hello everybody. Yeah, he's definitely hotting on the pace right now, and I think that might be because Ethan pitted a few laps earlier than Gutierrez. So tyre life is, as we know, very important around here. And also I think Ethan's been struggling with getting past some of the back markers, and we can see a couple of more just ahead. Yeah,
well, where do we think? Oh, Ethan now into pit lane probably. There he is. Ethan into pit lane. Johnny Gutierrez is going to overtake him. There we go. And Brian Hall now also up into P2. Where has Ethan Funk gone? Did he disconnect or something? Because he's dropped all the way down to P6. All right. Well, Well, it seems like Johnny Gutierrez has only just passed the pits. That's not 31 seconds to hold. That's why I was confused there for a second. But yeah, we're entering into the last 20 minutes of this race. 21 and a half minutes to go here. What a race it has been. Thank you all once again for joining me. If you have any questions, feel free to just leave them in chat and I will answer them as best as possible. So far, Ross Alexander Smith says, aren't you supposed to be listening to George? I don't know what that was for. Maybe for someone in chat who he was talking to. Tom Lane, maybe, who he was talking to. But yeah, it seems like a very timid race at the moment. The race has slowed down a little bit. There we can see the sun going down. Such a great sight to see, isn't it, Paul?
Yeah, great sight. Love it. Love the transitions day and night. And it's good. I'm suspecting Gutierrez is going to continue round because no, he's actually going to come in.
Not.
So only a lap later than the race leader Ethan. Yeah, so interesting. We'll have to keep an eye on this.
Well, Johnny Gutierrez, number 45, Panos into the pit lane. Here we go. This is going to decide where he's going to come out. He's going to come out, though, ahead of the man who he's fighting with. Let's see where he came out, actually, because he's not in the top 8, as it seems like at the moment. So Hall takes that first position. Ethan Funk is in P12. Here he is.
It looks like Johnny actually did take tires with the animation of the car going up and down. Johnny may be on fresh tires, and I couldn't see if Ethan was able to take tires or not.
Well, maybe because it's now gone dark, or it's going dark, Johnny has gone to the soft tires. If that's the case, we might see some blistering lap times here from Johnny. So Ethan Funk, his pit stop.
So
Sure.
Ethan has taken tires with him having a longer pit stop. Yes.
Yeah.
So Ethan has to. So yeah. So with that, through that pit cycle, looks like they did both take tires. Ethan, I will say, may have taken a little bit more fuel.
Oh, someone spun round, coming into sunset.
That looked to be a Porsche of Tom Montjoy, I believe, is who that was. As he's kind of slowly starting to fall back around.
Yeah, I think it was. The white car. We're going to see it here. He's going to do the same thing again.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
I will say.
This time rolling back.
Yeah, I will say this this track does not suit the Porsche GT1 the best. I was doing some practice prior a couple weeks ago. It was really rough on the car. It's not one, so I was kind of expecting for some of the Porsche drivers to struggle here.
Yeah, well, you know, every car, we've talked about this in the green room, of course, before we went live. And every car has its own strengths. Every car has its own stronger tracks. That's not the track. Petrovsky, he's still in the lead of the GT2 AM class, but that was not the track that he was on. And I do have to say, I do just love that whole bar that just illuminates on the back of that Porsche.
Yes, the GT2 911 looks amazing. So the Storm Gang guys did a very good job of modeling this car and bringing it to life in full detail.
Yeah, that's great. Here we go, another roundup of the positions. Wouter de Bruin is first, Magnus Dahlgren in second, and Brian Hall in third, at Tom Lane in fourth, and Tim Sovik in fifth. These are positions 11 to 17. Feel free to pause your stream when you need to try and catch your favorite driver. Let's move on to the positions in the GT1 AM. George Angelini is leading the way there at a Barry Dimarzo in P2 and Jerry Chan in P3. Wayne Hutchison P4 and Becky Ellie in P5. Ben Borman leading the way in the GT2 Pro class. Ross Smith in P2, the number 00. Matthew Overton in P3. Number 174. Dave Gores in P4 and Joe Miller in P5. Then we move on to the GT2. Oh, it's a big crash.
We have a big crash.
We're getting down a bit. Maximilian Paul was leading the way there still. Maximilian Petrovsky and Marazzi in second, but that was a big crash though for the Toyota, and that car is surely going to have damage, Alec.
Yes, yes, that was a big spin coming onto the front stretch right there. It just looks like coming out of the corner. He tried to gas up and just lost the ground. Oh, and he spins again in the background. I would like to see who that is. The number 5 car, that is not Magnus Dahlgren. I believe that is one of his teammates. I do not know for sure who that is.
It is Quadret, I think. There we go, yeah. Joaquin Quadret. Well, go ahead and pronounce that. How were you supposed to? Was that in the background, though? Dahlgren. We're going to have a look at that in a bit. Here's this one, the end of it. Oh, driving in the opposite direction. Not what you're supposed to do, I guess. That rejoin wasn't the best either, but had to find a way through. The Ferrari coming through the front ground as well.
Yes, I believe that was George Indelitas who was coming through there.
Well, I think before he went to that replay, someone else had a little bit of an off, and it looked like his teammate. And that did look like Dahlgren.
I believe Dahlgren may have had an off track, but I am showing now on live timing that Dahlgren actually is in P1 right now.
Yeah, but that gap has come down considerably to Outl the Brown. The gap has come down considerably. Here he is, Joaquin. Martin Brown though in second in number 19 Mercedes. This man has been just on a complete rampage to try and overtake drivers. He's been going mad with the lap times. Tom Monchoy in P8 of the GT1 AM class. Joe Miller in 5th, last place in the LMGT2 Pro class off the track. That's not where you want to be going, is it?
Oh, and I believe Ethan Funk may have had an off track or something. As I'm looking at live timing, he was right with Johnny Gutierrez, but has fallen back just a little bit. Oh, it may have just been, that is my apologies, everybody. That actually was just from the pit cycle.
Oh, well, it happens sometimes. We all make our mistakes. You know, it's a lot of info for us to take in the competition meet. We have a track map that we need to look at. We have the best laps. We have the lifetime. We have the sector times. We have the pit stop times. So much things that we need to take a look at it. It sometimes becomes a little bit much and you don't really know anymore what you're looking at. Tom Lane though in the background, I expect him to catch Wouter de Bruin and just go up and over and try and catch Dahlgren as well, because he has been very, very quick. Wouter de Bruin is going to head into pit lane. Here goes Dahlgren. Tom Lane in the background, I think, putting into the pit lane too. So pit stop cycles underway once again.
Yes, yes. I will say, looking at live timing, the last fastest person on the track last lap was Johnny Gutierrez at a 1:57.1, almost running his fastest lap of the race. So very good, very fast coming back up through the field. He's already up and into P4, and after this next pit cycle, he will be the leader. The guys in front of him have not pitted twice yet.
New fastest lap for Gutierrez. That 1:56.372. That's a new fastest lap of the race and a new personal fastest lap, of course, for him. So doing very well is Gutierrez. This is Dahlgren though, has still got that P1 position. Gutierrez about 37 seconds back. However though, Ethan Funk is behind him now, is behind Gutierrez about a second or 11. So that pit stop cycle has worked into the hands of Johnny Gutierrez, it seems like.
Yes, yes, it has. He seemed to be able to be faster on the pit stop. He may have to do some fuel saving, though. With having the shorter pit stop and changing tires, he may have cut a little bit on fuel. But with him able to go longer in the beginning of the race, it may not hurt him as much. As we saw Ethan Funk pitted on a couple laps prior to Johnny at the beginning of the race. So with Johnny able to push out his fuel window, it seems to have set him up better towards the end of the race.
Well, you know, in a race this short, you usually start to work your way from the back to the front. And yes, for people that don't know racing and don't know anything about strategy, that might sound a little weird. But I'm going to explain for you as we get into the last 12 minutes of this race. By the way, this race has flown by. But what I meant by that was the fact that you take the race, you go to the end, and you think, okay, from the end, if I do this, I will have, well, 30 minutes remaining at the end of my first stint. That means that I can't make it on my second stint until the end. So you try and work your way back, and you try and see what is the best thing you can do. You run from hour 0 to hour 30, then from hour 30 to hour 60, and then from hour 60 to hour or 2 minutes 72. Hang on here though. Cristiano Ichozo going for a move on Tom Lane, isn't it not? No, it's not. This is Brian Hall who he's fighting with in P9. So that's a good overtake. But yeah, that's what I was talking about there. That's what I meant. You start to work your way from the back of this race to the front, and or to the beginning, to the end of the race, to the beginning, and that's how you usually do it with strategy. Does that sound familiar to you, Alec?
Yes, it's all how you want your race to play out with the certain strategy. You know, you're with how these races are, you won't be able to lead every single lap, so you have to fall back and set yourself up with your pit strategy to where when you do make your pit stop, where are you going to be at track position wise? Because when the rest of the field comes through the pit cycle, you have to set yourself up the best to be able to still come back to the front through the pit cycle. So Johnny Gutierrez seems to have done that the best so far this race, and that's why he's in the lead. He's had the best pace, and with him able to go longer in his first stint, it's set himself up to have a shorter pit stop on the last stint, so he can set himself up. And now look at that, through the pit cycle, he's got a 15-second lead over Ethan Funk.
Yeah, that's a good pit stop cycle there for Gutierrez. Ethan Funk is about 15 seconds behind, 15.1. You can see it on the top left-hand side of your screen. Monitor Brown on about 7 seconds behind Ethan Funk. So he's been gaining a little bit. But, well, Tom Lane behind that too. Only 28 seconds back, and he seems like a dangerous prospect to steal that podium away from Monitor Brown.
Yes, he's climbing through the field, trying to close up the gap. He's going to not stop fighting and see, but now we have to come down with the Mercedes and the Panos, who's going to have, with not much time left in the race, it won't come into effect too much, but we've said it all race. How will the tires play out? They're on two completely different tires, so it just depends on who can have the best pace through it all. But as we cut to our leader right now in the AM class, George Angelidis, he's got Barry Dimarzo right behind him in another Ferrari, and they are having a good battle into this final stint. So the final 10 minutes of this race in the GT1 AM class is going to be an absolute dogfight.
Well, who's going to come out on top? That's my question. Both in the same car, so none of them are having a car advantage. Both in the Ferrari 333 SP, so none of them can blame it on the car, and it seems like a little bit of a better exit though for Dimarzo. Might he be the one to take it into turn one? Not quite close enough, it seems like. Brian Dimarzo and George Angelidis going for it till the end of this race, basically from all the way at the beginning to all the way at the end.
Yes, these guys have been pretty close this entire race, even through all the pit cycles. So now with them coming through, you know, with being an equal machinery, here's where the race gets tough. You know, you're not battling a guy in a different car where you can, you know, where you can worry about some tire wear and he'll come back to you. You're in the same machinery, so it's all on who has the better pace right now, who can push the hardest and fight until the end. So I know the guys probably have completely different car setups, you know, because they're two completely different drivers, but it's just all about that. As we see Dimarzo gets a really good run coming out of the hotel corner. As we come into the final set, this next section, he's going to try and possibly make a move to the inside. Oh, and he goes for the dive bomb.
He's going to go for it, and he's going to make that pass stick. Beautiful move by Dimarzo. That's a great overtake. Went for it, licked the stamp and send it. And what a send that was. Got it stopped before the end, the apex or the corner. We're going to take another look at it. What an overtake. Here we catch it again. Onto the apex we go. And wow. Just wow. What an overtake.
That was a great move under braking. It takes a lot of skill to be able to have that much control coming into that corner in a super hard braking section. So very, very impressive from Barry Dimarzo. Super excited to see, and he seems to have a little bit better pace from George Angelidis as he's starting to slightly pull away a little bit in this lap.
Yeah, well, Magnus Dahlgren, we saw him have a little bit of an off-track moment. Here's Tom Lane. He's had another off-track moment, it seems like, or has he gone into the pit lane? Maybe some information there to try and find for our brilliant pit reporter. So he seems to have had an off-track again, because he was in P4, remember, about 6 seconds behind Wouter de Bruin, challenging him for that third position when I said that he could be a dark horse for that podium. But the position where he's in at the moment, I think the podium chances are gone for Tom Lane.
Yeah, just a little too far back. He had a really good run in the beginning, but as the race played out, he just had a couple little mistakes, you know, like coming through this corner that he's going through right now. He had a couple spins there, lost the rear end a little bit, and just those little mistakes you really can't afford in a race like this. You know, even though it is a 1.2 hour race with almost 80 minutes, it's still, you have to run it almost like a sprint. And it's hard to do in these cars, to sprint in these cars for that long. So you have to be patient, and I just caught him out a little bit, but still a really solid ride. He'll still score some points, so it's not over for him yet in this championship.
No, not at all, not at all, not at all. Johnny Gutierrez has had a very good race though, entering into the last 5 minutes now. And with 16.6 seconds now, that gap has opened up quite a lot.
Yes, they were able to, with them both taking tires in the final stint, Johnny just has that better pace on new tires, so he's just been able to let the throttle loose and let it hang on. Oh, we have a spin with John Yuan. Oh, that was big.
Well, that car's going to be in big, big trouble at the end of this race. That's not what you want to see.
No, not at all. He was battling with a couple of drivers for position here.
What do you think that is? Just pressure from the other drivers, brake a little bit too late. Missed.
It looks like
The
So what happened was he caught the inside of the grass while following Ross Smith in the GT2. He looked to make a move, but Ross was still on the main line. So he caught the grass just a little bit and unsettled the car, and it looks like he has some damage because he's going slowly. Gonna try and just limp it back to the pits and still try and finish the race to try and get some points if there's any on the table.
Yeah, well, that's unfortunate though for John Ewan, because he was so good at the beginning of all of this, and it seems like it has just dropped away a little bit from him.
Yeah, no, it sucks to see, but you know, man, that's racing. You can run good at the start, but in order to finish first, you first have to finish. So at least he can try and get that fixed up and get back out on track. Won't be the result he wanted, but this is still a very long series, so there's still time, and I believe John will be able to make it back up.
This is Tom Lane under pressure from Graf. Let's see what Graf's going to be able to do in the Ferrari.
That is actually Barry Dimarzo behind Tom.
Barry Dimarzo,
in the M class.
Oh, okay, that's the other he was fighting with. That's the other car he was fighting with. He's going to go for it. This is the AM class. He can't just let this go. This is a different class. He doesn't need to fight this. He doesn't need to fight this, and he doesn't do so. In the background there, you can see the red Ferrari. That's Graf. That's where he is.
That is actually Angelitas behind them in the red Ferrari.
Who did I think that Graf is then? Because I'm mistaking Graf for someone here. I'm mistaking Graf for someone here. It seems like that gap is also too big. We'll get to it. Tom Lane is the one at the moment in 7th place. He's had an up and down race, hasn't he? Gilles Lalonde is the one behind him. That is the man in the Panas as well.
Yes, Gilles is a lap down, so he's just kind of trying to still fight for some track position.
Yeah, he's doing pretty well. Is Barry Dimarzo here leading the LMGT1 AM class. So doing a pretty good job. 2 minutes left here of this race. This race has flown by. 70 minutes already had by these drivers. Battle for third though is heating up. A second in between these two. Dimarzo, it looks like Walter Brian has just cooked his tires coming to the end of this race. So this might well be a battle to the line. I don't know where Gutierrez is at the moment. It seems like we're going to have 2 more laps. If I look at Gutierrez, he's just gone past start finish. With lap times of about 1:56, it's going to be close. So it's going to be just about 1 more lap, I think. But it's going to be close. This is going to be the battle for third, the last podium spot. Who's going to take it? This is going to be Joe's who's going to take it. Not quite yet. It is still right hanging on to it. Where is Luciano going to be able to do it, you think?
He's going to have to try and set it up in these next few corners. If he can stay close behind him and get a good drive going under the bridge, he could possibly get him into the tight hairpin in the hotel corner. It's just very, very tight to see how it is. The Mercedes is really good under brakes, but he makes a move up the inside right here. He won't be able to get it, but as he can get a good drive off of this corner and stay close to him through the straight, it doesn't look like he will, though. He'll have to try and wait a little bit more and try and set it up, but with only 50 seconds left in this race, it's going to come down really close here soon.
Yeah, Luciano Dimarzo. There he is. He's going to have 1 more shot, I think, at it. Here's Johnny Gutierrez, the leader of this race, has been dominant. 15 seconds is the gap. Does not need to push, just bring it back home safely. That is all that he needs to do at the moment. And, well, he's going to come on to the run-up to sunset. There he is, Johnny Gutierrez. And, well, with about 13 seconds left, it's going to be close. Like I said, I don't think we're going to have 1 lap more. This is going to be the last lap of the race. And it is going to be Johnny Gutierrez who's going to come through victorious in this race ahead of Ethan Funk. This is still the battle though for P3. Who's going to take it here? Luciano could have 1 more shot at it. 1 more run down this back stretch. And he's going to have to do into the trickiest corner on the track. He looks a little bit too far back though to try and make a move into sunset. I think that Walter Brown has got this covered. However, 1 last shot at it for Luciano. Not quite able to do anything though. He's going to carry him around the outside. They're going to go side by side to the line. Who's going to take it? It's going to be Luciano. It's going to be Walter Brown. It's going to be Walter Brown who takes it. What a battle.
That was a great finish.
Wow.
Magnus Dahlgren finishes up in P5, but man, that was special to see. You don't get to see 2 cars side by side at the line like that, so that was really amazing. I hope everyone enjoyed that.
Well, you must have. Barry Dimarzo is going to come through in the AM class of the LMGT1 AM to take the victory there ahead of Angelides in second. Tom Lane though coming through in 7th. He has had an up and down race for sure. Not a race for him to look back at. He will try and forget this one as quick as possible. There was more in there for him, for sure. Timon Sovak also coming through to finish this race in 8th, the number 35. Here is Norman Graff. There is Norman. Yeah, see? I thought it was Norman Graff in the yellow car, but I think he has a teammate who drives the exact same car then, together with him. That's probably the one I was mistaking him with. Alex Garrick coming through as well to finish his race in 11th. But what a race that was. Let's be honest here, Alec. That was one that I could easily do over.
Yes, that was a great race. A lot of battles. It was amazing to see how the pit strategy came out. We talked about that all race and how the tire wear was going to play out. And got to give it to Johnny Gutierrez for just that amazing finish. He played his cards just right, and this race just kind of fell right in for his strategy. So huge props to him. That was a great win. And to all the other drivers as well. Ben Borman in the GT2 class just basically walked away with this thing. He got the lead in the beginning and just was able to maintain it the entire race, even through all the pit cycles. So that was a great race.
How boring.
Yeah.
There we go. Go through them, Alec.
P1 with Johnny Gutierrez, great race for him. Second place is Ethan Funk. Third place is Walter de Buin. Fourth place is Luciano Dimarzo with that great charge at the end of the race. Magnus Dahlgren, Brian Hall, Tom Lane, all 3 of them were going back and forth the whole race, and it was sad to see Tom have some problems. Timon Sulik, In 8th, Norm Grath in 9th, and Jason Whitted rounds out your top 10. Super strong field of everyone. 11th place with Alex Goricki, Ethan Funk's teammate, so scored some team points there. 12th place for Alexander Scholes. 13th for Felipe Henrique. 4th place for Victor Geneba. 5th place for Gilles Lalonde. And 15th for Jaquan Cordet. And 17th for John Yuan, who had that big crash at the end of the race and had to make a pit stop. I don't know if he was able to get back out on track after that, but sad to see him. He was running up front all race, and hopefully we'll come back in the next few rounds. Our GT1 AM division was won by Barry Dimarzo with that great late race pass on George Angelidis. George ended up finishing second. Wayne Hutchinson in third, who led the majority of the race but didn't have it at the end. 4th place for Jerry Chen, our first Porsche finishing in the field. 5th for Stefan Miller. 6th for Gulham Benecki in my famous Golf livery. 7th for Becky Ellie. 8th for Tom Montjoy, 9th for Mike Olson, and 10th for Eric Monet. We go into our, still on our other finishing, Ben Borman for our GT2 Pro division finishes first. 2nd place for Matthew Overton. 3rd place for Ross Smith. 5th place for Dave Coors, and 5th place for Joe Miller in the Lone Mustang. So, and then in our GT2 division, Maximilian Petrovsky had a good race, had a little bit of problems, but was able to finish a lap ahead of Filippo Marazzi. And then Tim Vanderberg, who was out early in the race, who was leading and looked to be one of the guys who could have finished and won this class. But things happen. It's all part of racing, but still a great finish for him. We are back. Oh,
Sorry.
we are. Yes. We're back now and going to try and talk to some of our winners of this race. We had a lot of really fast guys who were able to put it all together and finish first. So we're going to talk to some of our winners from all of our classes and get their take of how this race played out for them. As we look now and wait to hear from some of them.
Oh, apologies. I didn't know I was supposed to start talking. Yeah, I'm the...
Oh, and here we are. Maximilian Pafraki. Is that how you say your name? Hopefully I'm saying that right.
Petrovsky.
Petrovsky, okay. Winner in our GT2 AM class, driving that really cool chrome Porsche. How was the race for you, man? It looked like you had some struggles for a little bit, but were able to come back around.
Well, it's I don't know exactly what to be honest, I didn't know that I had won until the end. I thought I was pretty much last place. The car just felt pretty awful, I have to say. It's I think it's a setup problem. I don't know what exactly the problem is, but it just felt awful. So I guess I just stumbled my way into a class win. I honestly don't know how I managed that.
Sometimes, man, that's how it plays out. You guys in the GT2AM class all had a little bit of problems. But you still were able to stay consistent all the way through, even with some of your problems. So I know that Porsche GT2 is really difficult to drive, especially around here with how bouncy it is. I know you guys struggled. I've had to work with a couple other guys on trying to get the car not to bounce so much through the corners. But hey, man, you got to take it. You know, a win is a win.
Yep.
So thank you so much for coming in here. And great race, man. That'll get you some good points in the championship. And hopefully we can see you again in this booth talking to us for another win and another round.
Yeah, thank you very much. I hope to see you again at some point too.
Oh, yeah, for sure. As we try and get some of our other drivers in here, we're going to see who we can get in next and try and talk to. Ben, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks. A bit tired.
Yeah, so that was looked to be a good race for you, man. You pretty much led the majority of it and seemed to not have many problems and were able to manage to come through and bring home the win.
Yeah, but I knew that I had to push much harder than Matthew because I knew that we couldn't make it on stop. And yeah, he was likely to pull out 30 seconds from somewhere at some point.
Yeah, no, I kind of saw that you guys were kind of going back and forth through on the pit cycles with everything. In the end, how did your strategy play out differently to Matthew's, where you were able to be in front on the final stint?
I mean, that's kind of telling, isn't it? But in order to take tyres, I short fueled on the middle stint. That just gives you options depending on how things play out towards the end. It's a bit of a lottery with traffic. It's very easy that if you take tyres, you don't get any benefit from them if you spend those first 3 or 4 laps just tripping over other traffic, which was very easy to do because the tail of the GT1 field was coming out of the pits around about the same time that I was aiming to make hay.
Yeah, no, it looked to be tricky battling with all the GT1s, but still, man, that was a really great drive from you, and I know that scores you a lot of good points in the championship. So you and Ross will have some good team points. So that was a great race, man. It was really fun to watch.
Oh, cheers. Always good fun, but hard work at Sebring.
Oh yes, for sure. I know this track is very, very bumpy, so it can be difficult to try and manage through it.
And I think all of these cars, the GT1s and the GT2s, are hard work, heavy beasts.
Yes, for sure. It looked to be don't worry, everyone had their fair share of struggles trying to manage through tire wear and how bumpy this track is and how much it'll unsettle all of these cars. So still, though, great job with able to manage through, and hopefully we can see you with more wins this season and bring you back in the booth.
Cheers. Looking forward to it.
Well, great. As we try and bring in some of our other drivers now, bring in Barry Dimarzo. Barry, our winner in the GT1 AM division. How was your race, man? You seemed to, I saw the late rate, we were able to watch your late race pass on George there. I know that had to feel good, coming in under braking there. It was a really bold move. But how did it go, man?
It's funny you mentioned that corner specifically, because I was thinking, like, I was coming up to that and I was like, is he going to give this to me? Because we are teammates. So his rule is if I'm following pretty closely, he might give it to me. But I had to get up next to him and outbrake him. And when I passed him, I audibly was like, yes! I've never been able to make overtakes before until this exact season. Like, my first ever race in CMS for the historic was the VWSC 1991 at Sebring. So this sort of marks my 1-year anniversary almost.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, look at that. 1 year later and you're winning your class. How awesome is that?
It's a wonderful feeling.
Oh, yes, for sure. So you seem to have good strategy throughout. You're able to put yourself in a good position at the final stint of the race. How was traffic dealing through with everything? With you being in the AM category, you were able to battle with some of the pros. How did that play into effect with everything?
So I think it became pretty difficult late in the race when, like, you know, the tire strategy was definitely unique for me. I took a full tank of gas for the start, then 60 liters for the middle, and then double stint of the first tires. But that left me with a full tank of gas and fresh soft tires for the last part of the race, which means that I was a second faster a lap than pretty much everybody except for the top 4. And I've got to shout out George Angelides, because honestly, he built the setup from scratch and taught me how to use it. And we practiced in the server for straight 2 hours and figured out the fuel strategy and everything. Like, actually doing the calculations and finding out exactly what the fastest strategy was going to be, and it worked. So. No,
that's awesome, man. I know George does a lot with that, so really cool to hear that you were able to work with him and everything. So super cool to see you guys do it. I know he's probably a little bummed that you used his setup and beat him, but you know
he's ecstatic.
oh yeah. So but great race, man. It was great to see you guys have that good little battle, and hopefully we can see you back in the booth with another win here soon.
I hope so too. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, man. And now as we start to get into everything, we bring in Johnny Gutierrez. Johnny, that was a great race, man. I'm so happy for you. You fell back a little bit and were battling with Ethan, but man, your strategy was just awesome to see you on that final stint.
Thank you, Alec. It was fun. I had lots of fun.
So how did the race play out, and how were you able to manage everything so well? So I know that the tire wear on the panos is can be kind of struggling, and it looked to be in the middle when you guys seemed to have double stint, if I'm correct. Ethan was able to come back a little bit. How hard was it to manage your tires through the middle of the race?
It was okay. It was better than last time. I was happy with podium position, so I wasn't really going for the win. So, but I told myself, well, you know, I'll keep on going, and I went hard, double stinted, and on the third pit, I just went with the softs just for the heck of it to see what happens, and this is what happens.
No, man, that's great. Yeah, we could definitely see on that final stint that you were able to just click down laps and you ran your fastest lap. So I kind of figured you probably were going to take softs just for that quick little stint. You know, that's kind of the strategy with these, is to run hards, and then when you have that quick final stop, I know that's what we did at Daytona. When you have that quick final stint, just to throw on some softs and try and build as much of a gap as you can, or you know, put down your best lap. So, but man, that was a great race. You've been running so good lately with some of these series. Even I was able to commentate on Thursday when you were battling Kirby, and that was so awesome to see you run that pace with him. So I just want to say, man, congrats, and keep running hard, man. It's really cool to see.
Thank you, Alec. I appreciate you, man. Thank you for the talk.
Oh yeah, no, man, for sure. And hopefully we can get back out there and you and I can have some good battles again. So I'm still sorry about Portimao.
No, it's okay. I enjoy racing with you.
All right, man. Well, take it easy. Have a good one, and hopefully we can see you again here soon back in the commentator's booth with another win.
All right, guys. Take care.
Well, that were all our winners here this evening. Thank you, Alec, for taking that interviews for me. I'm going to thank you all for watching now. I'm going to thank Alex for Alex for jumping into the booth. Of course, Paul with his great behind the scenes coverage, and well, doing of everything. Our producer Paul, of course, the man who you heard once, our rooming pit reporter, who was in the pit lane trying to gather information to tell us into our ears, so we could provide you with it too. I'm going to thank, of course, everyone from VWSC and everyone behind the scenes for making this possible, because without them, of course, it wouldn't have been possible. Of course, tune in next time, the 25th of March, for the 25 or for the 250 kilometers of Oschersleben. If you want to race yourself in this league too, of course, you do need a good computer, because R-Factor 2 is quite heavy on your PC. But you can do that on the 21st of March too, with the 200 kilometers of Oschersleben. So you started a bit earlier than the endurance side of things. Well, like I said, Alec, big thank you for jumping into the beat with me this evening. Paul, thank you for the great coverage of this race. I've enjoyed it thoroughly. Of course, second time only for me doing the RF2 commentary, but it's been amazing to have you all around there. Like I said, thank you to all the organizations from the VWSC and everyone behind it who made it possible, because without them, we wouldn't have been here right now. Thank you for the drivers out on track, of course, as well. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Best, everybody. See you next.